Hello, fellow Star Wars fans. Begin transmission. This is Outer Rim transmission number 29. I'm joined by the full crew this week, Milton and Ben, and we are live this week. Most of the time we go live, but we are going to get back on track. There was some scheduling. I was at New York Comic Con, and there's a lot of other things going on, but we are going to be back live for the foreseeable future. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm glad to be back on the podcast. As you mentioned, schedules getting away sometimes of us all being on the show together. But like I said, when we're not together, we still talk Star Wars, and it's good to be back.
Heck yeah. How's it going, Ben?
Good, good. Been a busy week. All the Halloween and fall festivities, family coming in from out of town, fall festivities on Madden. So, just the normal with a little Halloween spin on things.
Yeah, so we're gonna cut right to the chase. I'll throw it over to Milton. What have you been doing with Star Wars lately, man?
Um, Honestly, I think over the last couple of weeks, the biggest thing for Star Wars for me has been, um, actually it ties into a promotion that I got at my day job. So my coworker, who I'm now sharing our office with, she's not really into the whole like science fiction and fantasy type stuff. So actually, just a couple days ago when I moved into my new office, I have this big Boba Fett helmet that I sat on my shelf right behind me, and she looked at me and she's like, "What is that?" And I was like, "You don't know who that is? Like that's the Fett." And she's like, "Is that Star Trek?" And I was like, "Wait a minute." I was like, "Nope, it's two different properties." And I actually had to like walk her. I had to like talk Star Wars and the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars. So it's funny to see that this lady who's like maybe 6 years older than me has no idea like the difference of like both brands. So I had to like explain to her what Star Wars kind of was, and she still didn't get it. But it's nice to know that there's still people out there that's really fresh to them. They don't know what it's all about. So hopefully she gets the education she deserves and eventually watches a Star Wars film sometime. So yeah.
Yeah, you have an uphill battle when somebody says, "Oh, is that Star Trek?" It's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
we got a lot to discuss now."
Yep. It's insane. I mean, but you know what though? It was a good moment. I really did appreciate that just because again, it's nice to see that there's not ultra fans out there. There's some fans out there that just don't know about it. People that have no idea what Star Wars is. So again, that gives me an opportunity to be a nerd a little bit. So
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
I think she's definitely gonna have an idea of who the heck Boba Fett is come this December into January because you're not gonna be able to watch a TV without having Boba Fett showing up on it. So.
right. Yeah, I don't know if her kids are fans of Star Wars. I have to ask her, but if they are, I mean, I would say, listen, just watch it with your kids.
Yeah, so what about you, Ben?
I've had too many like crazy Star Wars things this week. Just the norm, playing some of my campaign on Battlefront 2 on the Galactic Conquest. That's always fun. Just slowly messing around on there. And then other than that, yesterday actually, I went and luckily I didn't even realize I got on Twitter and yesterday morning someone tweeted, "Oh, I can't wait for the premiere of Another Life," which is Katie Sackhoff's show on Netflix. And that show is actually really good because basically, it's the second season of it, and the first season is excellent. If anyone's looking for like a sci-fi type show to watch, Another Life is a really good one, especially if you're a Star Wars fan, because Katie Sackhoff basically is playing the lead captain for basically the premise of the
Okay.
show is the world is trying to send a human crew out looking for habitable planets, and then they are going to eventually run into some like aliens and things like that. So it's your uh standard sci-fi, humans leaving Earth type ordeal
Hmm.
with Katie Sackhoff in it, and it's cool because you're dealing with her. She's starting to deal with things. It's basically a situation like uh, it's kind of like there's an Ultron type character in on the
Hmm.
like a or not an Ultron, a Vision type character, basically where she's almost kind of like starting to like fall in love with them when she has like a family back on Earth, and this character's like on the ship with them like as like their robotic assistant, and then they're starting to have like a kind of relationship. So it's kind of a cool dynamic, and then like I said, you have them like landing on different planets and things like that. And the way, season one ended, you have like, them getting to a planet and different things happening. So it's really good. And the season two premiere just came out yesterday. So, I'm probably going to be binge watching that after this weekend, after our family heads from here. I'm probably just going to be binge watching that early this coming week because that show is excellent. And, Katie Sackhoff always does a really good job.
Yeah, no, I haven't actually heard of that, but I know Katie Sackhoff, she is, renowned for being in sci-fi, right? She was in Battlestar Galactica. That's where she got her fame, and obviously all through the Clone Wars. So, yeah, that's interesting. I had no idea about that, but I'm gonna have to maybe check it out. What station is it on?
It's on Netflix. It's on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
It's called Another Life. It's really good, well worth the watch. Like I said, if if you want to give it a watch, just watch the first couple episodes and you'll get a good feel for the show. And it gets really good. Like, you have different things happening. Like you have a ship appearing on Earth, which, there's all kinds of like mystery with that. Like, and then, like I said, that Katie Sackhoff and the crew, they're off planet. So, it's like a two-sided front to like the intrigue on the show. It's really good. And it's definitely worth watching. So yeah, so there's that's out. And on a side note, so as we talked about a few weeks ago, we had mentioned Chucky. By the way, anybody out there, if you guys have not seen the first episode of the Chucky show from USA Network that came out this week, watch it because it is amazing. Like that is one of the most, like I'm not the biggest scary genre person, and that show was excellent. Like I am so excited for this coming Tuesday already because like Chucky, the way they do Chucky, like it's so good. The story of it, I mean, Chris can attest to this. The story's really good. The doll, the way they do Chucky the doll himself is great. And then, there's just enough like creepy intrigue where it does give you a little bit chills here and there, but it's so good for a watch for a Halloween theme type of month. And yeah, check that out as well.
Yeah, Milton, have you ever ventured into the horror genre or Chucky specifically with Child's Play?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the movies. I like the original ones. That new stuff's trash to me. I'll be honest with you. Like, I just never like got into it because like, it's not the original. I mean,
yeah.
I know I didn't even watch the Mark Hamill one. Like, he did the voice for that one.
Yeah, I was
Like,
talking about that.
I was like, man, that sounds stupid. Like, I mean, look, I like other horror films. I'm actually was watching a Halloween movie today, the new one.
Oh.
Like I said, like the Mark Hamill one, I heard the voice. I'm like, yeah, I ain't convinced. Like, it's trash. Yep. But like I said, I like horror films, but not those.
I think if you check out this show though, Milton, I think you'll really like it. It's very, very good.
All right.
Yeah. Speaking of Child's Play and that little aside from Ben mentioning that I might have seen it, that's going to kind of tie in to my overall New York Comic Con discussion or recap, whatever you want to call it. By the way, I want to shout out before that, we have Jack Brody in the chat. Guys listening, you can always watch us live every Friday around 9 o'clock Eastern. And if you're watching after the fact, go ahead and give us a download on any of your favorite podcast streaming networks because we'll be there. So getting into it, this is my week in Star Wars. I'm just wrapping it up into New York Comic Con week because even though it was very like lessened from this normal content we usually get, usually we have a publishing panel, usually we have like an animated like Clone Wars or Rebels panel or something like that. We didn't have that, but what we did have was a lot more kind of discussions and whatnot. So the one official Star Wars panel we had was, I forget the exact title, but it was basically a Clone Wars panel because you had Matthew Wood that voices the droids and Grievous, and you had the legendary D. Bradley Baker who voices like half the things in his animated shows, including Bad Batch. We're there, and they were just sitting up on stage. There was a moderator. They were just chit-chatting about the good old days and about how Matthew Wood got involved with Star Wars and like using fax machines and like going physically to Skywalker's town. Like, this is back in the day. It was kind of fun hearing those stories of like, oh yeah, this is back prior to the internet, what you had to do to get jobs back then. But then they also explained about the Clone Wars, some really cool tidbits I hadn't heard about before, such as like George Lucas just made a bunch of episodes and didn't even have an idea like what platform he was going to put the episodes on. He's just like, Dave Filoni, Matthew Wood, like, go make me an animated show. And he's like, where are we going to put it? And it's like, oh, we'll figure that out 2 years later. They figured out, oh, we'll just throw it on Cartoon Network. And like that can't happen these days. Like you have to have a platform to back you, to even fund you to make this stuff. But it just goes to show, like everybody says, like Clone Wars was the eccentric billionaire show. Like George Lucas just, hey, you want to do this? Here's another couple million to pull this new technology off. Like he just gave them cash to make this thing, which doesn't happen ever at all. So I really like that story. You had a Q&A, so it was really interesting hearing these things, and a guy walking up to the mic and said, "Hello there," and then General Kenobi. I'm not even gonna try to do the voice, but like that, literally the whole exchange literally happened in front of me with Matthew Wood, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And Matthew Wood explaining, like, whenever he's like doing the droid voice, he has to like stick his butt out and like stand up like really rear position, because it goes back to the way they are rendering the droids, and like they had to like have this minor correction because they couldn't fix it, so it always looks like the droid's butt is like sticking out a little bit for a battle droid. So he like harnesses that like actual feeling when he voices the droids, and I literally seen him do it. Like he actually has to like sit up in his street. But that was a lot of fun, that panel. Other Star Wars interactions I had was meeting Charles Soule for the upteenth time. I always get him to sign me stuff every year he's there, because he lives in Brooklyn, so he's always there every year. So yeah, it's cool. We were talking about the Lego special, and it was interesting because when you make intellectual property for Star Wars, if you're a writer or artist or anything, like you're basically saying, okay, I created this for you, Lucasfilm, and I'm giving you my permission to like use this anywhere else. Basically, what I mean by that is he had no idea that they were actually going to use like his character Ren that he created in a Lego special, and he actually seen the trailer. And then he called up his contact at Lucasfilm, was like, is this actually what you guys are doing? And they're like, yes. So I thought it was interesting, like how the creators aren't actually cued into what is being made beforehand sometimes. So that was a lot of funny. That was a lot of fun there. And he was just giving me some hints about, oh yeah, War of the Bounty Hunters 5 is going to have a teaser for Crimson Reign, which I'm going to talk about War of the Bounty Hunters this week. So that was pretty cool. And the next day, I also met Sam Maggs, who happens to be one of the writers on board of Knights of the Republic Remake. So it was really cool talking about her gaming history, and she was saying that she used to work at BioWare on games like Dragon Age and Mass Effect. So I think rest assured that she's gonna do really well with helping create this game, because I'm pretty sure there's multiple writers. So with games, there's usually 2 or 3 writers at least. So especially with a game where it's like RPG elements, like you have multiple dialogue options, there's a lot of people that are going to be working on that game. And it's still far off game, but it's cool to like be able to just chat with somebody and see like, yeah, how do you write an RPG versus a comic book? So it was a cool conversation I was able to have with her. The other big Star Wars thing that happened there on Saturday was the big Star Wars meetup, and it was awesome because it felt like a mini celebration. I sent you guys the pictures. If you guys aren't already aware, I have actually footage of that in my vlog for New York Comic Con, and in my cosplay video I have as well. You can see I had to be close to 100 Star Wars cosplayers all converging on this one area at 2 o'clock on Saturday. And you had Jedi, you had Sith, you had a whole bunch of awesome new characters, because that had been 2 years since 2019 when we were at Celebration at New York Comic Con since. And just think about this, guys. Just think about how much new Star Wars has come out since fall of 2019, and it'll blow your mind, right? We have a brand new live action first ever TV series. So you could have bet, like, I've seen so many obscure Star Wars cosplays that I was so happy to see. Even that one lady that holds Grogu in episode 5 of season 1 with the curly hair. I literally see this person. I seen an incredible Bo-Katan. Like, she took off her helmet and she looked like Katie Sackhoff. Like, she had the actual hair and everything. I seen the bodyguard, Casca Reeves, was actually powering alongside this girl. I've seen female versions of Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order with a BD-1 actual like life-size prop. I see so many Grogus. Obviously, I seen a life-size person cosplaying as Grogu eating a blue cookie. Like there's just so many little things, and I was just in my glory because I'm like, I freaking missed this. And the craziest part was, while we were taking pictures and everything, for all the people that were watching and everything, because I was actually in costume as my own self-made character, Darth Desertus, my Sith Lord. There was like a little lightsaber duel going on. They're like, oh, we're gonna make a circle. We're gonna have our friends do a duel, and I didn't think anything of it. Neither did anybody else in the crowd until the Luke Skywalker literally proposed to Mara Jade in the middle of this freaking lightsaber duel.
Nice.
I also have footage of that in my vlog. You guys could check out like that moment, but it was like, holy crap! And the fact that it was literally Luke Skywalker and Mara Jade, who, as we know in Legends, literally got married, was like the coolest freaking thing ever. So that blew my mind, that I was like, oh my gosh. But just wrapping up New York Comic Con in general, it was great to be back. It was definitely limited capacity. The aisleways were a little bit wider than usual. We definitely had so much more room to walk around, and it was so cool to be able to just walk into a panel 5 minutes before it started with plenty of seats, because that never happens. I've been going since 2015, and it's like, if you get in anywhere with less than 30 minutes, you got really freaking lucky, because most of the time you don't even make it into panels. If you're more than 30 minutes late, they already capped the room. You can't get in, and there's like hundreds of seats in some of these places. There was a big ass addition that was put on to the Javits Center, which is where it takes place every year. So they have like multiple floors of panel rooms. So I didn't have to go all the way down to Madison Square Garden, like a 20-minute walk and back again to go to various things. So it was all self-contained. But the vibe was cool. Even though Marvel, even though Lucasfilm, even though DC wasn't represented this year because they sat this one out for their own events coming up later, it still was fun, and it was cool, kind of going back to what makes Comic-Con what Comic-Con is, and that's that sense of community that you have with people. Everybody was just so freaking happy to be there. Everybody was just happy to be integrated and have a good time. Artist Alley was great. Taking my girlfriend through there, and she was having a ball going through and buying all this original artwork. So seeing everything through kind of her perspective for the first time, like I was there 5 years ago, is pretty cool. And but man, oh man, this is like my preamble to Star Wars Celebration in about 7 months' time. So I feel like this is my warm-up convention, and I'm rearing and ready to go for Memorial Day weekend this upcoming May. So yeah, I think that's about it for New York Comic Con. I think I spoke enough about New York Comic Con, but it was an overall great Thursday through Sunday there, and it's just nice to see that there's a little semblance of reality returning slowly but surely to everybody that's going to these live events. So yeah, had a great time.
Oh yeah, that's good. I mean, one, I guess, positive thing. I mean, obviously all that's positive, but an extra positive thing to come out of that whole story is the fact, sure, like you said, Marvel and DC and all them weren't there, but I think that could potentially be a positive for an event like that, every now and then, because like you said, it kind of brings it back to what Comic-Con was potentially before maybe all the commercial, heavy commercialization, or like, the panels that overwhelm the entire conventions or things like that. Like, maybe this one, you could have potentially, I mean, like I said, I wasn't there, but, there could have potentially been more social interaction than there would have been, if there would have been, a Marvel panel, a DC panel, or whatever panel. Like maybe there was potentially more social interaction, which that's not a bad thing nowadays with, like, all of us being on our phones and screens basically all day long, so that's a little extra positive thing I see that, came out of that.
Yeah, especially, and I gotta shout out Aaron Daly in the chat, because we had met actually during the panel with Matthew Wood and Dee Bradley
nice.
Baker. I also
Nice,
met
man.
my one buddy Matthew. So there,
Nice.
it's cool linking up with you guys, and it was a lot of fun when all of us kind of share in that excitement for something, and we're all watching, or listening to Star Wars people talk. It's a really cool special moment. But yeah, no, everything was safe, and in a pandemic, things could be sketchy, right? It could be like, oh no, are we gonna get sick and what's going to happen here. But so far, I'm a week removed or whatever. I'm perfectly healthy and I haven't heard anything bad. So I think that bodes well for conventions going forward for sure. But yeah, I would definitely say a quick other aside, not related to Star Wars, with the convention was I got a chance to see Ghostbusters Afterlife live for the first time like a month before everybody else. That was awesome. That felt like a Star Wars moment to me because it was like I don't know if you guys ever watched like a Marvel movie like the first night it came out or DC or anything, but like when you're in
Yep,
an
all of them.
environment with people that are super hyped for something and they're cheering and clapping at certain moments and it's just that the electric in that room when the director literally was like, "You guys can't tell anybody what's happening in this movie. Don't ruin it for them." It was like, "Oh my gosh, is this really happening right now?" Because the whole premise was they were going to show us some clips, and I was like, "Yeah." They're not going to show us just clips if they have those guys in the suits out looking for people on phones. Because I've been in
Right.
these situations where they're like, they got these guys and it's like they mean business. Like one girl went to the bathroom during the movie, came out, just looked on her phone for the time, and the guy like tapped her on the shoulder and was about to kick her out. Like these guys are serious. I'm like, they're not just showing clips for this thing. So that was a really cool experience. And even though, like we said, even though it wasn't like heavily commercialized, Sony came to the stage here and threw this thing out there. And oh yes, then there goes Dark Nerdy Gonzo. He's the other one I met. So
Yeah.
there we
That's
go.
great.
Everybody's listening live. Like I said, it's great to be back live because we had to pre-record one or two of these things in preparation for meeting to be able to go there. Because if you guys aren't aware, yeah, this is my YouTube channel. I'm always the one who's responsible for clicking the record button, so or the stream button rather, whatever. So, but yeah, hopefully you guys one day will be able to come out to New York because I think it's really there's a lot for everybody to enjoy, and it's definitely worth making a trip out at least once in your life here because it's fun.
Yeah, I think that's something. That's probably one Comic Con I think I really should try to get to. Because again, just seeing all the pictures over the last couple of years, and even when you talk about it, it seems like a con that's perfect to get introduced into.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because there really is a lot for everybody, and there was a more than anything else. I think there was a huge anime presence this year. Like you had a huge booth for Dragon Ball Z. I don't know if you've seen the pictures, but they had like the Vegeta Beast looking dude,
Hmm.
um, like huge statue, and then they had like the Viz Media with like Demon Slayer and all that stuff that I don't really watch, but like it's pretty cool that they showed up and they brought all their stuff. So huge anime presence. I think they have an anime con going there next month as well. So for those that are maybe interested in that, they got that coming up. But yeah, fun times, and it comes by. It's like you wait all year for an event like that. And it's kind of over in a blink of an eye, sort of thing. And then you're like, "Oh, I have to go back to reality on Tuesday," you know.
Yeah.
But as far as things that came out this week, oh, we got a doozy of things that came out this week since I've been gone. So I'm going to break those all down right now. So, out this week, and I kept showing you guys images of how cool this is. So, this is Star Wars Secrets of the Sith. And this thing is kind of my impetus for making the title for this episode because let me tell you, man, if you want to know what's going on with Rise of Skywalker, specifically with Palpatine and Rey and all that, this book is almost a must-have because it really will shed a lot of light. It's not going to give any information like that's new specifically, but what it does is it like aggregates some of the information we've had from various sources like the novelization and stuff and puts them in a very simple to read and follow kind of timeline of what the hell's going on. So I really enjoyed this, but like the artwork is fantastic. They have like a lot of cool, it's such a large book that I can't even really show it properly on the camera,
Right.
but like they have cool stuff like this where like stuff will like open up and it's like interactive, like 3D stuff. Like if I can get to it, there's a really cool Sith Waystone. Oh yeah, Wayfinder. Here we go. Let me see if I can do this live on the. Let's see.
Okay.
So it goes here. See, my microphone is like in the way, so it's. There we go. This is a.
Was this? 'Cause I think Ben, you mentioned something to me. Might have been in the chat about this would hopefully help like expand the sequel trilogy or something to that extent, or at least give it some like credence or something. Was that you saying that?
I believe that was Chris saying that, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's a chance like something like this, it could definitely help.
Hmm.
It could help. People will still have their critiques, of course, but you know, I man, I'm always on the dark side in this podcast, but like
No. You and me both. You already
my
know.
okay, so my thing is this is my take on the sequels, the prequels, the original trilogy, the Godfather trilogy, whatever movie franchise you want to talk about. I do not
Yep.
think any extra material should like justify. It shouldn't make a movie better or worse. I think it should just add to it as a bonus, which this book sounds like it does. It just adds a little more context and things like that. Like you said, Chris, it kind of aggregates a lot of the information together to make things more understandable. But my thing with that is, shouldn't have been understandable on screen. I kind of look at things like that, but I do enjoy these type of things. Like I'm not always like on the negative side of things. Like I love like these type of like extra things. Like they can be fun, etc. And just add a little more spin to the movies, because like I don't absolutely hate the sequels, but I do like aspects of them, and I think it's really it's just a bonus, a bonus adding to what what you're seeing on screen. Like it can help enhance the positives, of course, but also it can maybe enhance. Actually, that's not the right word. I was going to say enhance the negatives, because that would be bad. So decrease the negatives a little bit, and just kind of maybe soften the blow on things. So I think that's a good positive overall view of it. And then just in general, not looking at it from like a wild Star Wars fan like we are. I mean, we're sitting here on a Friday night talking Star Wars on a podcast. Like that's about as niche as we can get. So the good thing is for like casual people like our parents or siblings or whatever, like you said, Chris, it's kind of like a coffee table. So or a coffee table book, that someone can just pick up and like glance over and check it out here and there, which I think is really good for like general audiences.
Right. I agree with that. Well, so that book, after looking at it, and even the clips you sent us, Chris, it reminds me of like the encyclopedias that they make of like the movies, and even like the art of the movies. Like I think I have the art of the Rise of Skywalker. I have a couple of the encyclopedias, and I really enjoy those books because I mean, you know me, I'm always been into like the documentary making of the films, this bonus speech, the bonus features, that type of stuff. So after seeing this, I can see the appeal to it. People already know how I feel about, the sequel trilogy. Force Awakens was solid, was good. The other two, we're indifferent. However, I am glad that we're getting stuff like this because, and personally to me, I guess it does kind of enhance some of the stuff that I like. Even things that are negative film wise, I can get a better understanding of what it was supposed to be if we got it in the film. So I'm totally okay with the additional footage, because let's be real here. We're all Star Wars fans. I'll take anything Star Wars every day. So if you want to continuously give me material to read about, study, add to my nerd encyclopedia, great, because I'll use that in any type of conversation with any of my buddies that don't really know Star Wars like that. So again, I love this type of stuff. I kind of wish, after looking at some of the clips you sent, it'd be nice to see some of this in the film. Like I truly feel like especially the last two films could have been 3 hours a pop with more. I would have been okay with more. And that book you showed us today, Chris, gave us a lot more, which would have been really useful, I think, to explain the whole Palpatine stuff. I think people still are weird about, well, Palpatine, how did you actually come back? They didn't really explain that well in the movie. I know the novelizations.
Well, they explained it in one line.
In one line, yeah.
The rebel guys like Sith magic, cloning, or whatever. It's literally one line.
And it's like
something
like
only a Sith would know, or something. What is that? There's that famous meme
in
line.
the book, they explain it differently, sort of, and it's like Just give us that in the movie. Like that's a huge plot point. And again, this isn't me trying to criticize this particular point. All I'm saying is, when they give us these books, you're going to get people who are going to be like, well, why don't we get this in the movie? So
Yeah.
I think they need to be aware of that. But again, I'll take it all day, every day.
Yeah. So the thing is, I think we all can agree that The Rise of Skywalker should have been like a 3-hour movie. Like, I'm so
It should have been an
tired.
Avengers Endgame type. Let's be
Yeah.
real here.
Yeah, and I was about to say, oh, Disney doesn't do that. And you just brought up my own point to defend, they already made a 3-hour Avengers movie. Why couldn't they do that with Lucasfilm? I don't know. But just quickly going over the whole thing with the Emperor Palpatine, like, they could have had some kind of flashback scene, and all it needed was 5 minutes. Like, just show us the contingency plan, because in this, they explained a contingency plan the best way I've ever heard it described, which was Palpatine just, his empire, if it ever failed him, he would take out his, like, vengeance on his after death by just having them basically get killed, all of them. So the First Order was like something that kind of like banded together and went out there, but like he wanted to just destroy the Empire because it failed him if he ever died. So like that's what that whole thing on Jakku was like a trap for his own people to just get cornered by the New Republic at that point and just die, because he's that kind of vengeful spirit. Like, if it failed, they weren't good enough for him, so they need to get wiped out and start over again. So there's that. But also talking a little bit about the whole Final Order thing, because that always bugged me. I'm like, they don't explain, like, were these people, how long were they on Exegol? Like, how did they build these Star Destroyers? Like what's going on there? Well, apparently, Emperor Palpatine had these guys going out there, like, basically around the time of A New Hope, I guess, or even maybe before that. They had these crazy fanatic guys all the way out there already. And like, they're born people. I mean, their offspring would end up being the stormtroopers. And he made the Sith troopers not like force sensitive, obviously, the red and black troopers we see, but he made them not as recruits, not as clones, because both of those people failed him, because there's been lots of people that left it, like Han Solo. He wasn't a stormtrooper forever. He ended up defecting. So people like that. So he ended up brainwashing the people. That seemed like the best way possible. So all those stormtroopers were brainwashed, through different means, so they would never actually defect again. So I think it's really interesting the way they describe it in the timeline. They make it very cut and dry. There's no like, oh, is it this or is it that? It's very cut and dry in this book, which is something I just wish they would have done a little bit more of in the movie.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the way you just explained that, it's like all you need is an additional 10 minutes to edit that properly, give us that look. Because again, like, what was everyone's big, contention over the last 6 years about the sequel trilogy? It was, what was Luke doing between those 30 years? We want to see the big three together. Obviously the offspring of the Skywalker family, and then who's going to be the big baddie, and what's his motivation, and clearly and Palpatine was used in the legacy books, he was brought back before, and that was thoroughly told well, and then they had multiple books to explain that. But you can take a 3-hour film and explain it real quick about what he was doing. And again, the novelization actually does a good job somewhat explaining how his entity traveled to his body whenever he got thrown down the shaft and returned the Jedi, and how like his body wasn't complete yet, his new body, something to that extent, because he's been practicing this for a while to beat death, according to Plagueis. So I mean, it's like, again, you could have given that in 15 minutes, not have been okay. I think I would have been like, I'm fine with how things played out because of the details they were giving us, but for some weird reason I felt like JJ and Kathleen, with their whole weird mystery box thing that they always talk about, it's like, oh no, let's make the fans really think about what. No, I want to see it. Like, give me my cake and candy now. I ain't waiting for it. So.
Yeah, some other things. We're going to talk about this whole topic a little bit later. This is like our main topic for the podcast episode tonight. But before I forget to mention it, we also have this whole thing about Palpatine and about the reason why he never ventured out into space again. Like, after he got this body, the body was never actually good enough for him. That's why he was, for Rey. But like, when he initially went into the body of this clone of his, it was never good enough, so he can never venture out into space. That's why he made Snoke and he basically enforced his will into Snoke as a puppet. I think a lot of us know about it. Like Snoke was a puppet. It was been puppeted by Palpatine from afar the whole time. And then the whole thing with his son being a strand cast, which is like they tried every possible thing, any kind of possible vessel for Palpatine using his genetic material. Thousands of people or hundreds of little things were failed experiments of Palpatine. The one that actually worked, unfortunately, did not actually have any force ability inside of it, and that's his son. So the son ran away. And then Palpatine found out that there was actually a daughter of the son. Then that's when he went and hunted Rey, and she disappeared. So, and we're going to talk a lot more about this because there's a story that's getting revealed, that got revealed, a new book that's going to have a lot more of that kind of stuff in it. But, so yeah, that's interesting. But all in all, this book is a great way to get people to wrap their mind around the story a little bit easier as far as like Palpatine is concerned, and even for Rey too. So,
see, and again, we're going to talk about this later, but right there, it's like, thinking in my own head, it's like, wow, that'd been so dope to get on camera. Like, because I think I would have been okay with it if they would have given us all. Like, this is what? When did Rise of Skywalker come out? In 2019? 2019? 2 years ago. It's like, man, you waiting 2 years to give us this? This should have been given. Like, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not trying to be negative, but it's like, really? I don't want to have to read about this. Please give it to me in visually, or like tell it in like an animation or something. I don't know. It's just, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. I mean,
like this in my head, I'm thinking like, oh my god, that'd be so fire. Like I want to like that. Like but it's like,
I mean, I agree. That's literally exactly what I was going to say. I mean, we'll get into it later when we get into the main discussion. But for a brief point to make, just imagine how cool it would have been if we would have seen, I don't know, like a all jacked up Palpatine saying like, find the girl, blah blah blah, and it's a flashback, and like, you know, Palpatine's son like helping Rey escape. Like, you know, we get more of an extended sequence of that. That would have been really cool. Like, I think that would have been a lot of fun. And then the whole brainwashing thing of those other characters, like that would be really cool. Like just, you know, as you said, Milton, just what Chris has been describing has been just as interesting as almost anything we saw from those three movies. And it makes me wonder, you know, this is one positive / negative that comes out of things like this. It's the whole what if thing, like, oh, what if we would have gotten that instead of what we got? So, you know, we'll get into it, but yeah, I just think stuff like this, it's nice because it adds to things, but it always harkens the conversation. Man, like, what if this was what we saw on screen?
Yeah. So I want to point out that Zach Arnold, good old buddy of mine, host of IPC podcast, check it out. Hot take: the sequel trilogy would have been better if a revived but somewhat amnesiac General Grievous had been the big bad.
That's
pretty good. Oh man, but like I said, we're gonna come back to that in about 30 minutes time or so. We have a few more stories to get through before that, and continue with the new releases. I can't have a podcast episode this week without talking about this awesome book I picked up, and this is Star Wars Ronin: A Visions novel. And you just look at the artwork; it does not look like your typical Star Wars book, and I mean that's for a number of reasons. But this is a non-canon book for the first time released by Del Rey, that is revolving around the Visions anime, and this one specifically revolves around the first short there called The Duel, and it revolves around obviously the character of Ronin. So I have not read all of it yet. This is kind of my initial impressions right now, but I am 7 or 8 chapters in, and I will say that I'm on board with this book. The book opens up with exactly what you see in The Duel. I think the first 2 or 3 chapters are basically reinciting or retelling those events in prose form. There's things in his book that are really neat that you didn't actually get from that perspective, such as this character. Well, first off, we don't actually know his name, so even in the book they're calling him the Ronin. Whether or not he gets a name towards the end, I'll have to figure that out later on. But he has a voice in his head that's telling him to do really bad things. So I think that's really interesting because like he is a Sith character, he's roaming around, but there's so much about this book that is different than any other Star Wars book I've read in a while. First off, the author of this is Emma Mieko Candon. So she wrote this book as if, for me, from what I experienced so far, it's almost like a Japanese folklore book with Star Wars elements, right? So you have your species like Grands and Trandoshans, and you have like actual ships in hyperspace and the Outer Rim, but it's told in a unique perspective and written in such a manner, the way her writing style is, it makes you feel like you're reading like almost like history kind of thing in Japan, but with like Star Wars elements, and it's really neat. That bandit leader plays a big role that we see him fighting against, and it's just got so much kind of culture in it, like just with that whole Eastern vibe, the Far Eastern vibe there, and I'm just really enjoying kind of sinking my teeth into it. It's definitely something that I would highly recommend anybody that enjoyed the duel to pick this one up.
I think we kind of talked about this a couple podcasts ago. I know one of the stories you think you might have told us about was like a potential pilot for one of the episodes of Visions. But even them doing this book, I think is a great idea because everyone loved that first episode with the duel. I mean, I know that's one of the ones that we all raved about. And it's nice to see it. I mean, if they do it on audiobook, I might have to get it just because I love that episode. I love that character. So it'd be nice to see that. And like I said, that sounds very fascinating how you mentioned it, Chris, the writing of it and how that is portrayed. So again, I might have to give that probably a listen before I give it a read because I'm all about the audiobooks.
Yeah, it's really neat because it's like you could tell like this is meant to be in the past. And what I like about it is they jump you right, just like the anime. They jump you right into the story. It's got that same Star Wars vibe, right? When you first seen A New Hope, they started you right in the middle of this battle with a Star Destroyer. It's kind of the same thing. Like the history of this other universe is unfolding before my eyes as I'm reading further in. It's like you learn about this empire. You learn about the Sith that are, betraying the empire. But you learn about how the Sith formed, how they used to be Jedi and then they're Sith now. You learn about there's this planet that was like the Coruscant of their universe that just disappeared because the Sith took it with them. So it's like there's very like much stuff that's grounded in reality, but then like them taking planets literally and just the planets disappearing is like so far-fetched, but the way it's actually portrayed in the book makes so much sense. And there's like this witch that is like resurrecting people. Again, these are minor spoilers because I'm only like the first 5 chapters into this book, but there's people like being resurrected and all this crazy nonsense that reminds me of like something from the Far East.
But I mean, again, like well, here's the thing. It's nothing unusual in Star Wars. I mean, we have the Dathomir witches. I mean, think about it. The Sisters of Dathomir. We got Mother Talzin. Eventually, like we've seen magic in Star Wars and how it was well done in the Clone Wars. So even describing that is not unusual. If you'd have told me this in 2000, I'm like, wait, magic, Star Wars, come on, witches, that's ridiculous. But now though, seeing it or even hearing about that and the Ronin stuff, it makes so much sense because you're tying in all this mythology. Yeah. So again, this actually one of the books that I actually are looking forward to getting in a sense of if it's an audiobook for sure, like I am getting it done. Because I probably would be very interested to see how they do tie in like the modern times of Star Wars with the past of it, if that makes sense. So yeah, no, it sounds very interesting.
Yeah, and the character of Ronin is very interesting because he's very much like a silent protagonist. Like he says very little in the book, and it's just cool. Like the characters that I'm meeting now as he's going on his journey, it feels very much like a quintessential Star Wars story. Like, hey, there's an objective now. Like I've gotten far enough in the book to like know what the end game is and what he's striving to do. And he's meeting these other characters. And as a Sith, like people want him dead. Like the Sith are supposed to be extinct at this point. And, he takes out his lightsaber. That's not a good thing. Like the guy's got to watch his back because now people know he's a Sith and now he's got bounty hunters running after him. So it's really good. And like I said, it's just refreshing because like, when everything I read is basically canon, it's like, okay, like I can know how the pieces fit. But now it's a completely different universe, a completely new set of rules with how everything is just functioning. It is like I'm almost not reading Star Wars, but at the same time, I'm reminded at certain points that I am reading Star Wars. So it's a very interesting experience so far.
Oh yeah, I mean things like that. I think the big word that you got me with that book was the word folklore. Like the idea of that type of a setup for a story. Like I think that's really interesting when it comes to Star Wars. And then in terms of like the canon talk, sure it's not canon, but my thing is I like a lot of the non-canon things. Like we just saw Visions. Visions was amazing overall, and I like the idea of them embracing some of the non-canon aspects of Star Wars and allowing, because it basically allows creators to create and basically do what they want, which I like that a lot. And then, they're not bootstrapped by, oh, do we have to worry about they can go and make a book past episode 9. They can make one in between 3 and 4. They can make one during Revenge of the Sith. It can be anywhere if it's not canon. So I like the idea of like non-canon projects like this, as well as Visions, the Ninth Jedi talk, of that potentially being a pilot, like things like that. Like I like those different types of things because, as we saw in Visions, they basically went wild with it. And I love that. Like, I think it's great. And I hope that eventually, like, kind of loosens up Lucasfilm a little bit to maybe expand even from anime. Maybe we get a one-off 10-episode series eventually, like, that's in like the Rebels animation style, whatever that's called, like 3D animation, like, something like that. Like maybe we get like a 3D animation series of, who knows, maybe, what if they eventually get into like, take some of these Ronin stories or things like that, like, and make them into a 3D animation style show. Because to me at this point too, when it comes to that discussion, like, I think you're able to do stuff like that just because, Visions is on Disney Plus. Like it's right there next to like, all your other canon stuff. So like what's stopping you from making other properties? So I think it's a good indication and a really good start that they're starting to like branch out. And this book, just the way you've described it so far, though, I mean, it's got me very interested. And as you said, Milton, I definitely, if they come out with an audiobook, it would be great to listen to.
Oh yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised on November 12th. I think we heard that they have 11 current projects in the works.
Yep.
One of those projects being something new that's announced that's non-canon as well. I think whether it be Ninth Jedi, whether it be something that's not affiliated with anime, something just like traditional, because it seems like they're very much going that route now. Now having a book out that's tied into Visions non-canon. We also can't forget the fact that they're making a AAA video game. Knights of the Republic remake is still going to be considered Legends. So they have literally everything in the basket as part of non-canon at this point. So it would make a lot of sense. Speaking of other content, we're gonna go on to the comics that were released this week. First off, we have the penultimate, the 4th issue of Star Wars Adventures, Ghosts of Vader's Castle. This one was a lot of fun. It revolves around Lena Graff, and she's going into a nightmare as everybody else in this cast has gone through as they go to Mustafar to basically rescue her brother Milo. When she's on a ship, she has like a moment where she's in a nightmare and she's being chased around by an evil Anakin Skywalker, like the kid version of him. And then eventually he grows into like the Anakin we know from Clone Wars and all that. So that was a trip because after just watching Child's Play or Chucky near Comic-Con, I was like, oh, this kind of reminds me of Chucky a little bit. Just like going around the corner, like sneaking up on her and all that kind of thing. Again, I love these comics. They're just a great time, of course, this time of year. So there's going to be one more left for that one. And the rest of the comics are related to War of the Bounty Hunters. So big week because we have the ending of the miniseries. The event's not quite over yet. We're gonna get the epilogues pretty much for each of the series that are intertwined, like Darth Vader. We're gonna get the Star Wars as well as the Bounty Hunters epilogues and their own issues. But the main story is now basically complete since the miniseries ended this week. So basically, what happens is, wouldn't you know, Boba Fett actually gets Han back to Jabba. How else would it go, right? I mean, it has to happen that way. There's a big battle. The Hutts are basically going against the Empire. The Hutts are actually all killed by Darth Vader, which is one of the bigger plot points I want to talk about. So I think last week I was like, oh, maybe there's some Hutts out there or something for Book of Boba Fett. No, Jabba is literally the sole person in the Hutt cartel at that point, because the Emperor basically said, just off these fools. They're causing the Empire too much trouble, and Vader just goes in and just executes all of them and gets onto their ship with his TIE Advance and just wipes them out like they're nothing. So that's really interesting because, like, okay, when Jabba's gone, there's literally no Hutts. So it's gonna be absolute chaos in Book of Boba Fett, from what I can imagine.
Man,
That's
I
crazy.
want to. Now, I
Go
want
ahead,
to see
man.
the Vader's. I want to see the Vader scene live action, Milton. How about you?
That'd be tight. I mean, look, again, I'll read the comic books when I can, but that particular, because again, we never really even questioned like where the Hutts were, or were there any other ones in like Return of the Jedi. But it's nice to know, like, yeah, Vader was wrecking people because the Empire just felt they were threatened, or they just felt they were in the way. So yeah, Vader, kill them all. And that sounds like Palpatine. Like Palpatine's known to like, he's not really all about the aliens, from my understanding. Was that him or Dooku? One of them. Like they
Yeah,
didn't really like the aliens being part of like the Empire and all like the galaxy and stuff. So that doesn't seem surprising that he wiped them all out.
Another really cool point is with Byler and Valance, and I mean they make it seem like he's dead, but I don't think he's dead. There's somebody in one of my YouTube comments that likens Byler and Valance as the canon version of Dash Rendar loosely, since we haven't seen Dash yet. I think Byler Valance is kind of the stand-in. That's what this theory was. And after this person said that, I kind of have to agree with the way that Byler Valance had a relationship, like kind of a love-hate relationship with Han Solo, as far as like them being in the Imperial Cadet Corps and kind of being enemies, but then becoming friends at the end. And Byler Valance wanted to kind of rescue Han from Carbonite. That's what his whole plot point was. But then him and Boba Fett are working together to get Han and Carbonite. And then when Boba Fett doesn't need the assistance of Byler Valance anymore, he throws a thermal detonator at him, and there goes Byler Valance. I mean, we see him kind of like shredded to pieces, but we also know that he's like 99% cyborg. So just because a thermal detonator might have looked like it killed him, I don't think he's down for the count. So me saying that, I'm like, oh, maybe he'll actually show up in Book of Boba Fett and really want to have Boba Fett dead after what he did to him. So that was really cool. And then by the end of this issue, basically what happens is Kira's still around. That was the big question hanging in there. Is Kira gonna die at this end? And if she did, then so much for Kira. But the fact that she survived, and now having hindsight, knowing that there's two parts that are still going to continue on. We got the Crimson Reign, which is the next miniseries starting in December. And then when that finishes, we're going to have this other thing called the Hidden Empire. So there's a lot going on with Kira. And one of the last panels actually had Kira with the Knights of Ren at her bidding, like going to do what she needs to get done. So that was very interesting. Knights of Ren obviously tied to the sequel trilogy, and seeing them intertwined still in that Empire Return of the Jedi era was something I didn't expect when I first started reading these comics. But hey, man, Charles Soule likes to connect all this stuff, and they're letting him go wild with it. So I'm all here for that.
Oh yeah, I mean that sounds interesting. It makes me think more and more that I think we're going to see Kira in the Book of Boba Fett at some point, just because it falls back on our whole comparison of like the Clone Wars enhancing the prequels, and now like the Mandoverse enhancing the sequels. And I think for the Knights of Ren, potentially, I mean, they were wasted basically for the sequel trilogy. Maybe them and Kira will make an appearance in the Book of Boba at some point. Like that could be pretty wild. Like, potentially, what if she's the Crimson Dawn's like the crime group Boba is having to face up against? Maybe that's like the quote unquote big bad or something, like, something along those lines. But I think there's a really good chance that now, that you have that shot, I really could see them doing that, just because it's the whole idea of like, adding to the sequels basically. And
Can
what's a better way to do that than take a fan favorite character like Kira and mix her in with the Knights of Ren, which people were disappointed in. That'll enhance the Knights of Ren.
Yep.
That'll enhance the Book of Boba show because people love Kira, so they'll freak out if they see her in there. And then if they're like, oh yeah, guys, while Kira's here, what would be better? Oh, she'll just have her like Knights of Ren come out too at the end. Like, that would get people going wild, I think, in a positive way.
Yeah, because then that would prop up Ben Solo as like almost like the chosen one level of power. Yeah,
Yep.
sure. Like when we've seen it through that lens, like, oh, they're just chumps. Like Ben Solo just wiped them out like one stroke each. Kind of like how the Emperor wiped out those Jedi, right? We don't ever say like the Jedi that Emperor went up against in that room were like terrible Jedi. Like we just look at how good Emperor Palpatine was. Like Palpatine just wiped the floor with those things, with those guys, so
Yeah.
seeing like if the Knights of Ren go against like a lesser force powered being, I'm trying to, there's really nobody but Luke, I guess. But let's say like Knights of Ren stomp on Mandalorian, like he's trying to use his electro stuff and he gets defeated by them. Like right there, we already seen like how good of a fighter Mando is, and if he gets knocked down for the count by the Knights of Ren, it's gonna put them up a ring a rung. Because then I was like, oh crap! Like one of the better melee fighters just got owned by him, or whoever it could have been.
Right. But my thing is the difference with that, what you mentioned about the Jedi from Revenge of the Sith getting killed compared to the Knights of the Ren. But the difference though, we haven't seen the Knights of the Ren do anything like that. And that's
They
what.
didn't earn it.
Yeah, there we go. Because like, what's gonna really upset me is if we see them in this show and they just start wrecking everybody, and they do it in a way that's gonna be like, oh shit, we should have got. Again, I'm gonna say it. We should have got this in the Rise of Skywalker, because I don't want to go that far, but I know I will, because I'm gonna be like, why would you do that? Like, why would you sit there and build them up here, and then make them look like little, I'm trying to be not nice in your podcast, Chris, but you know where I'm going with this. You know where I'm going with this. Like just don't even put them in that show, because I don't want to even like get mad. I just want to like see Kara, because I like that character. She earned it in her solo movie. Knights of the Ren, look, if they're in the show, they better be just as soft as they were, and then because at least you're consistent.
Well, there's a lot of positives with the potential Kira / Knights of Ren going into Book of Boba, but now that you say that, Milton, it just make me a little nervous, because
That's what I'm saying.
I don't want my thing is I just don't want us to get in a CW Supergirl Superman situation where I don't want I don't want the Knights of Ren and Kira to come in and whip on Boba, especially after we built Boba up, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want it to be that, or if they do get in a fight with Boba, hopefully Boba just mops the floor with them, and that's why they're basically little babies. So
Yeah.
maybe that maybe they go with that angle. Who knows? Maybe that's why let's just, for all intents and purposes, say Kira and the Knights of Ren come into Boba. Maybe the reason they're the way they are is because Boba basically ends Crimson Dawn. Like, maybe that's the reason why. It's like, maybe we'll get into something like that if it would happen. But just the good. I think it's good overall. Like, just the fact they're making like the comics connect to things. It's good that Kira didn't die. That is a point to be pointed out there, because if they would have killed her character off in the comic, that would have been a major disservice to Emilia Clarke and the character as a whole. So, it's a good bonus that she's still alive, and it really makes me think they're just going to be building up to her appearing in the Book of Boba.
Yeah.
Or maybe if we ever see Rangers or any of those shows, I think she's going to be in the Mandoverse one way or another, just because it's the old marketing tactic of like, hey guys, now that you're excited Emilia Clarke is back, go check out all these comics where she's had this huge comic run, Like, I think it's going to be something like that, where, they're building her like lore right now, and it's going to pay off on screen, and then it's going to also reverse, because then people will be like, oh, I want to hear more about her, and it'll be like,
Yeah.
check out these comics.
Yeah, I'm doing the math right now in my head, right? Each miniseries, I believe, is usually 5 issues for the most part. So if the Crimson Reign starts in December, I think by the time this thing gets over, they release these things every month. It'll be like, March or April or something by the time this series ends. Book of Boba Fett will be way over by then. I like we said before, I'm expecting her to like make an appearance in like the last scene or the after credit scene. And then the Hidden Empire series will tell us like how she got to that point. Like that comic series will like be maybe between Return of the Jedi and Book of Boba Fett, because I know the Crimson Dawn or the Crimson Reign comics that are coming out in December are going to still be between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So I think we'll see how Crimson Dawn kind of becomes into the seat of power, and then we'll see them reappear in the show, and then we'll get like more of a backstory in that last piece of the trilogy that Charles Soule's making. That would be my assumption, maybe, because they don't want to like spoil too much ahead in the comics if it's going to be a big deal the actual show, obviously.
Yeah, I really do think that's where we're heading with this show, because a lot of it falls back on, heck, we'll have to do a Book of Boba predictions episode at some point.
Yeah.
But a lot of this falls on, shock value. I'm always going to shock value when it comes to the live action Star Wars shows, because they have it. Like, the sequels were what they were, where I guess there really wasn't too much shock. But when it comes to like the shows, like Mando season 1, I mean, the first episode we get Baby Yoda. Like, what's bigger than a Baby Yoda? Like, I mean, nothing really, actually. But so we get Baby Yoda. We get all these reveals. We get the Darksaber at the end of season 1. We get all of the craziness in season. I mean, look, season 2 kicks off with Boba at the end of the first episode. Like, we didn't see that coming. Like, I mean, well, hardcore Star Wars fans did as soon as they went to Tatooine and Cobb Vanth was around. We all knew what was coming next. But for the general audience, I'm thinking in more of the mind of like the general audience, what would be bigger swings basically for home runs? And they end it with Luke. You have all these different things appearing. I really think that potentially one of the big hard hitters for the Book of Boba is going to be the Kira appearance whenever she may appear. And as you said, Chris, I have a feeling we might go through all. It's been reported there's 8 episodes of Book of Boba. I think there's a good chance that all 8 episodes are going to have nothing to do with Kira whatsoever, and then the post-credit scene will be that. Like, that's when we're going to see Kira. I don't think she'll be involved with this storyline whatsoever. I think there'll be hints at maybe Boba and Fennec will be getting like, different reports from some of their minions, like, oh, there's this criminal group. Like, there'll be foreshadowing. And I think that's eventually where we're going to lead to, is like a post-credit type scene. But I don't think she'll be in the main overarching plot of season 1.
Yeah, whenever the trailer comes out for this darn thing, finally, at this point, I'm just guessing it'll probably be another month at this rate, since they don't have it out by now. But I'm going to be going through with a magnifying glass, zooming in, trying to find any Crimson Dawn, like half moon sigil anywhere in any of the shots. Because if there's any kind of like red spotlight or anything like that, like, oh, that's Crimson Dawn, like, So I think they're going to hold their cards to their chest a little bit, but you never know. You never know. That could be the big thing that we talk about in the first trailer. We just never know. Also connected to the Book of not the Book of Boba Fett, War of the Bounty Hunters, we have Dr. Aphra issue number 15. Basically, Aphra is getting away from Destic. Aphra and Santa. Destic is an assassin for Crimson Dawn, for Kira. So they find out, they take her out. Aphra basically finds like a Sith relic and uses it to like basically do this really, really dark deed where this thing is called the Thought Dowser. And if you use it, generally you have to be force sensitive to use it, but she's able to use her electric tattoo thing to tap into the energy. And she can literally let these people like mind control whatever she wants them to do, they'll do. So she literally has Deathstick like stabbing herself with her own like Dathomir and poison darts. It's pretty dark, and like all these people are just like committing suicide by her command, basically, for them to get out of there, out of the ship safely. And they do leave with this necklace, which one of the spies of Crimson Dawn had, and this also ties into the Book of Boba Fett, War of the Bounty Hunters. Like, holy crap, guys. Like, there's somebody that's in every kind of organization that is a mole and a spy for Crimson Dawn. Like, there's people involved in the rebellion that are part of the Crimson Dawn. There's people involved in all the major crime syndicates. There's people involved in the Empire. Like, that organization is so far seated with these informants and these people working behind the curtain. It's like they basically own the galaxy. It's crazy.
So basically, what you're telling us, to translate all of that, so basically, what you're telling us is if there's like a really odd or off character in the Book of Boba Fett, that's like a side, small, miniature character, they could potentially be a Crimson Dawn agent.
Yep.
Sounds like it to me.
So yeah, that made me very excited. And like, oh wow, they are really deeply rooted in the galaxy's affairs. All right, I'm ready. I'm ready to see some of this kind of pay off later on, in whether it be comics or live action. So there we go. Over an hour into the show, and I think we're finally ready to move on to our first news stories, guys.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, so keeping up with the comics, we have our first piece of tie-in material for the brand new Star Wars Hotel, Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser. This miniseries from Marvel is a 5-issue anthology series, and it's going to be called Halcyon Legacy. So it has a cover of Bur Yaga from the High Republic. It's an anthology series, so we're going to have different points of view, different characters from throughout like 300 years, basically, of Star Wars. It's also got the same team that's involved with writing Galaxy's Edge. So that's writer Ethan Sachs, who's also currently writing the Great Bounty Hunter series featuring Byron Valance, with artwork by Will Sliney. I really enjoyed the miniseries these guys wrote for Galaxy's Edge, the park, when it first came out, because first off, Will Sliney's artwork is incredible. I just love how that guy just draws Star Wars. It really immerses me into it and gets me involved. And Ethan Sack having different stories of characters like Dr. Aphra and Han Solo and Greedo and like all these classic pairings of characters made the actual series like really rooted in a lot of fun Star Wars lore. So I'm expecting nothing less than great when this thing comes out. They say sometime next year. But that kind of leads me into my worrisome kind of phase, is if this is anything like Galaxy's Edge, they are going to really give us so much content, it's going to be overwhelming. I hope it's not to that point, because I remember they were literally releasing like slates of books that had nothing to do with anything else but Galaxy's Edge. Some of them are actually pretty good, like the Galaxy's Edge novel by Delilah S. Dawson, Black Spire, was really good because it actually tied in like characters that she had written before. But all I'm saying is, for those of you that are, collectors of all the books and publishing, get ready to put out your wallets, because it looks like Disney's starting up the engines when it comes to cross-promoting their stuff with the new park or the new hotel.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely, I could definitely see that coming a mile away, just because, like you said, they did it with Galaxy's Edge, so, we'll have it with this. And yeah, I mean, it's cool that they're tying in content to their live action, or their real world stuff. Like, that is pretty neat, I would say, because it can make the even setting the price aside of all the stuff at Disney, setting the price aside, it's cool. It can make the value and the experience potentially a little better. As we're getting into our main topic later on. That book ties in with the sequels, it makes them better, et cetera, et cetera. Like, this type of a book series can make your experience going to the Star Cruiser even more, more valuable as a whole, potentially. It can, and to me, honestly, just bringing up that point, if I'm going to shell out the $5,000 it'll be to go to that thing, like, I'm going to actually buy all these books, because then it'll make my experience like better, and read all these books beforehand. Like, it'll make the overall experience better, in my opinion, because then you'll be more immersed, I think, with the experience for what it is.
Yeah, so that's definitely going to help flesh out the world, flesh out, because they say they explain like this overarching miniseries, like these things, these stories with like Bur Yaga from High Republic, they're all going to be flashbacks. It sounds like, but there's going to be an overarching story that's going to tie in all these other little loose threads together, because apparently like this thing's going to go up against a first order cruiser, because
Mhm.
as we know, this is set during the sequel trilogy era. I think specifically between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, and that timeline there, when there's the biggest battle going between the Resistance and the First Order. But that's not the only kind of tie-in experience we have with the live action or interactive attractions. We also have a new adventure coming to the newest Disney cruise ship, and this is called the Disney Wish. And then we had prior, I believe, the same ship that's going to have like that nightclub that's mainly for the adults. But they're also going to have a whole space just for the younglings. So I believe it's like 12 and under or a certain height or something like that. Basically, it's this whole interactive place that is called the Cargo Bay. So there's a lot of cool, like little animatronic, different creatures that kids are going to be able to interact with. Apparently, this is going to tie into some things with Rey and Chewbacca and the Resistance. So yeah, this cruise ship is looking like it's going to be a really awesome experience, not just with Star Wars, but it's got like so many other things like Marvel and whatnot, and different dining experiences. But like, I know a lot of people were kind of perturbed, to say it lightly, when they were like, "Oh, there's going to be an adult bar and cantina. Like, what about my kids?" It's like, well, hey,
Mhm.
your kids are going to be able to go and meet porgs and laugh
Right.
cats and everything else while you're having fun, I guess.
Well, I was looking at this article earlier today, and I mean, look, it looks interactive. I mean, it looks great for kids, obviously. I mean, no kid's going to say no to this. But my question is the price. Like, again, I'm all about doing this stuff. I think it's great that Star Wars and Disney is doing this. However, like, it's going to be hard for people that really want to do all these things to like afford it. So I'm curious to see the price, and maybe I'm jumping to the negative of this. I mean, I'm not trying to be, but it's like seeing all this interactive stuff. It ain't going to be cheap at all. So I'm curious to see what type of like bonuses you get that's, I guess, included, if it's worth all this money. But I mean, again, it'd be cool to go to something like this. I mean, I'm sure when I was 10, I'd have loved this and I'd have been all about it. I mean, because actually my initial interpretation of this, Chris, when you sent it to me, the article was like what is it called again? The Disney Wish or something?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking it as like Make a Wish, where like it's for like kids with like terminal like illnesses, and like they have to go to like a cruise type thing or something, like for Star Wars. Like that was my initial thinking of what this was. But
Yep.
even
That's
because the picture, like the kid's in a wheelchair. So, but then it's like even that though, like it's nice to see that they're doing this. Like I'm very interested in it. If I had a kid, I would definitely try to make a point to get him or her there. But at the same time, money don't grow on trees. So
Yeah.
I mean, Milton, like not to sound like negative like you, or well, not to sound like, but when that is true, Chris, though, when you sent us that article, I honestly thought it was a Make-A-Wish thing at first. I
yeah,
really did. Like that, to me, that's a really bad marketing term for them to do. Like, I feel like you could do a lot of other things, because I feel like the word wish in general is so associated, like subconsciously, with Make-A-Wish,
hmm
you know, like it can, to me, I don't like that it's kind of connected to it, because then again, looking at it from just say a pure business side of things,
it's
it can
smart
make a lot of
business.
sense, because
Yeah,
then
it's
the
smart.
word wish, instantly, oh, people are, your ears perk up and let me click on it and see what it is. So like that's true. Unless I missed anything, I didn't see a price for this. But I would just probably guess, I don't know, since it's like a cruise, like I would guess it's probably with the interactivity, probably 20% more than a normal one, I would guess, I would assume.
Oh,
But
really?
that's maybe, I mean, for the interactivity and stuff, like,
Hmm.
and with it being like marketed, under like Disney and Star Wars and things, I feel like it's probably, it'll probably end up being probably 20% higher than a normal cruise, I would
I
guess.
I wonder what's going to be more expensive, 2 nights at this hotel or like 5 nights on a cruise.
Do not get me started on that hotel, man. Oh, see, that's here's the thing though. See, I already tell you now, I'd rather spend my money on this on the cruise. Because
Yeah.
if I get 5 to 6 nights,
Yeah.
and let's say, because you said the books for the one thing, that's another thing. Will they include those books and all the extra stuff too in this? Like, let's be real here, they probably won't.
Probably
So,
won't.
and this is my only beef about this right now. I love the theme parks. I love all the stuff they're trying to do. Please, this is great. However, normal folks like us that got regular jobs and regular salaries, it's gonna be hard to get to something like this when we want to.
It'll be the whole, the situation of like, middle class type families. It's your one vacation a year and that is it. Like,
Yeah.
nothing else. Like
you better start saving your pennies the moment like you come out the womb. So it's like, this is crazy.
Oh man, so I'm sure we'll have much more to report when it comes to hotels and cruise ships in the future, but but getting into the next big thing, this came out on Monday morning. We have a brand new initiative that is going to tie in all different areas of Star Wars, and it's a weekly release of new items coming to Star Wars, new reveals called Bring Home the Bounty. So basically every week until basically the Book of Boba Fett comes out, or at least until mid-December, you go to StarWars.com, they're gonna have a new bunch of whether it be figures or Funko Pops or whatever. Week one's already live. They have a bunch of like new retro Hasbro figures. So it's kind of like Force Friday, like we used to have, but like extended with like a mystery box element from now until sometime in December. So there's going to be a total of 12 weeks of this thing. I believe it's like every Tuesday they release the new information. The main thing about this one, it's been getting the headlines around like IGN, different things. Now, there's different icons or heads or helmets for each one of these, like just as placeholders for like the mystery part of that week, right? Like you have like Mando's helmet and Bo-Katan's and like a Gonk droid and Grogu and like the 50th Lucasfilm. But then if you go all the way down to week number 10, and that would be on December 14th, there is a video game controller there. So there's not much else like to grab off of this other than people are thinking, oh, they're going to reveal a new Star Wars game then. Because if I read directly from the actual, explanation of what this is, it says Disney and Lucasfilm today launched Bring Home the Bounty, a global consumer products, games, and publishing campaign that will debut new Star Wars toys, collectibles, books, apparels, and more each week through the end of the year. So, I mean, with that being said, it could be nebulous enough to be like, hey, maybe they will reveal a new game. I mean, I thought this would be all stuff that you could just buy like right then and there. Like, hey, maybe like literally a controller. Maybe they'll just release like an Xbox Mandalorian controller. And then everybody's going to be up in arms about how, oh, they teased us on, that wasn't fair. But like, to be fair, they never said that they were going to like make a video game announcement, but people are just getting hyped up because man, they want more video game news. But what do you guys think about this overall? Like just to bring home the bounty launch here.
Go ahead, Ben.
I think it's okay. I think it's solid. It's a good for sure. It's good marketing. I mean, bring home the bounty with Book of Boba Fett. Like that's perfect. And in terms of, it's cool that they're like doing little teasers and things like that. I feel like it'll probably just be a video game controller, maybe Boba Fett themed, just because I don't know if they would be too crazy. Because if you go and drop big video game news, like, is that going to overshadow the marketing for Boba Fett? That's the big thing there. So I feel like it's probably going to be like, hey guys, with your consoles, get this Boba controller for leading up to the Book of Boba Fett or something like that. I think there's a chance for something like that. My big thing is I would love personally, even though I'm a guy, I think it would be really cool to get a Black Series Bo-Katan helmet. Like I think her helmet's one of the coolest designed ones. That would be really cool for her specific day. But those are really the main things that stand out to me. Just it's good marketing, and I don't think it'll be anything too big. Long shot, I would love for them to make like, give us some type of Battlefront 3 news, like just something related to Battlefront 3.
Yeah, because what is DICE working on, right? They're wrapping up Battlefield 2042 is going to be out November 15th, I think, or something like mid-November. Like that team, they either work on Battlefield or they work on Battlefront, right? And they just worked on two Battlefields back to back, right? I believe because Battlefield 5 or whatever. Yeah, Battlefield 5 was out after Battlefront 2. So it's like, come on, guys, just say you're working on Battlefront 3. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
Like Battlefront 2 didn't have the best reception when it came out, but my only concern is like a lot of the creatives that were involved with Battlefront 2 have literally left DICE. So there a lot of their leadership, a lot of their big head honcho guys over there that worked on Battlefront 2 probably wouldn't be involved again, which hey, maybe that's a good thing, get the fresh blood in there or some other veterans from some other shooters in there, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But Milton, I want to hear your 2 cents on this whole bring home the bounty.
Honestly, when I read this, I was like, what? I was kind of confused at what it was. I'm like, are they giving stuff away each week? Or like, are they trying to like play like a game or something? Maybe they're leading up to like a potential like mystery or something. But then it's like, I mean, we've seen this type of promotion for a lot of like movies. Like, well, I know the Matrix trailer when that came out this past year, like they did like a couple day like countdown for it or whatever it was, or they do like an interactive like red pill, blue pill, and see different parts of the trailer or whatnot. I don't know. I'm indifferent to it. It's not. It's marketing, so they got to do it. Of course, you will have the hardcore fans that want to participate in it. Will if I could see them promoting like some video game stuff with this. I don't see why they would do that if it's about the Book of Boba Fett they're trying to promote in that sense. Again, I don't know. I'm indifferent to it, so I really can't say if I like it or don't like it.
Yeah, but another thing that people are gripping on is right around, I think it's December 9th this year, we have Jeff Keighley's Game Awards, and Game Awards are basically like the Oscars for video games. Like they give awards for like best action game, best direction in a game, yada yada yada. But mixing that, they always have big ass like world reveals. Like they revealed Xbox Series X, they revealed like numerous AAA big first publisher games, right? So maybe they'll like reveal that there's a Star Wars game there. Then like a couple days later, they'll be like, tune in on December 14th on StarWars.com to like learn more. So it would kind of make sense if they tied it in somehow. But yeah, I'm not going to sit there and like mark my calendar for December 14th and wake up at 9 a.m. expecting a video game. I'll be pleasantly surprised for this year at least. But moving on, we also got, this came out of the blue. I don't know if you guys watched this. There's a new web series on Star Wars Kids. It's called Star Wars Galaxy of Creatures, and it's basically like 2-minute YouTube shorts, and they have 2 up right now. One dealing with the Porgs, one dealing with another creature that I can't remember. Banthas. It's a really cute kids show. Just to like, if I was like, between the ages of 5 to 8 years old, I'd probably watch these things like 100 times each. They're just really fun. Just, understanding the creatures and the habitats of the Star Wars universe through the lens of like this little droid guy that's going around, and they have like this whole organization, and that apparently like started during the High Republic and all that kind of thing. So it's just a fun little thing. They're releasing 2 shorts every week. So, if you got kids, might be something to try to steer them towards if they're interested in the Star Wars. I think they'd enjoy it.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to check that out just yet. I actually have them added to like my YouTube watch later list, but that just reminds me, like, I really enjoyed actually was it called Galaxy of Heroes? Was the first the little shows
that's
like
the mobile game, Galaxy Legend?
Game.
Wait. What is it called? Galaxy Adventures.
Forces of Destiny. Like I really loved the Forces of Destiny series. Like I thought that was really good with like Maz Kanata like narrating it, like that sort of thing. I feel like that was like a good like kids introduction, but I also thought, like that provided some interesting value. Like the whole Leia bounty hunter thing, that was cool. Like, the cool thing is when it comes to like these type of things, these little shorts like this, specifically like for this creatures thing, and, it's just another good way for kids to like interact with Star Wars and get interested in Star Wars. And then for us older Star Wars fans, sure, they're for kids and everything, but hey, you can just watch it 2 minutes. Like, like we always say, we always love, getting new Star Wars content. Like, hey, this is something in the meantime, like, take like each of them maybe only, like you said, 2 minutes long. So, take 4 minutes out of your day, watch them. Boom, there you go. There's a little bit of Star Wars content to hold you over for another day.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Milton?
Actually, I don't mind this because I said you're right, because I thought about the Star Wars kids thing, because some of those shorts were cool, like because again they use a lot of footage from the movies, but they made an animation version of it, so I enjoy that part. I actually watched because there was a trailer that was with this little thing, right, that you sent us. Because I watched part of that. That kind of made me like cringy. So I'm just like, I don't know if I'm into this one, but it didn't feel like the other stuff they promoted for kids. And now again, this might work, it might be great, but I was just like, this wasn't for me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly like me. I'm like, yeah, I watched the first two. I could probably pass on the rest of them, but I kind of this is kind of like the same feeling I had with the Jedi Temple challenges, which I think was also on Star Wars Kids, or at least just on Star Wars' YouTube channel, where I watched like the first two or three, and I was like, I get the point. Pretty cool. Not for me. I'm moving on. Like it's fine. Like you can do that.
Right.
You don't have to just like watch every single little thing. If you don't want to watch it, just don't watch it. At least
That's
don't.
how
At
that's how
least
I
don't.
am. I just like, if I like it, I like it. If I don't, I'm moving on. Like I don't want to critique it. I don't want to
Yeah.
disrespect it. Because again, that's not for me.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Is like, don't sit there and be like, "This is the worst thing ever." Like these people that make this thing have to rethink their lives. Like, no, it's fine for you to just be like, "Hey, I'm moving on." You don't have to say any nonsense. That's quite all right.
Yeah,
If only everybody had
100%.
that
When it comes
sense.
to those type of projects, heck, even like the Lego stuff, like like I enjoyed the Lego Holiday Special for it was pretty good. The Halloween one was okay, but when it comes to those type of things, you just got to look at them from the lens that they were created in. Like you can't go into like a Lego thing or these Star Wars kid. Like you can't look at the first episode of this Creature series, go, man, this wasn't Empire Strikes Back. Like you're setting yourself up for major disappointment if you think that. If you think every project is going to be like a perfect project, especially when it comes to something that's not in the same medium,
Yeah.
don't do that. Don't do that. Like I always have that view on movies in general. Like I judge like quote unquote like Oscar type movies differently than I would a comic book movie or a Star Wars movie. Like I don't compare I love the Star Wars movies and everything, but I think one of the more perfect movies out there is The Godfather, like the first Godfather movie. I think that's almost perfect, if not perfect, 10 out of 10. But I'm looking at The Godfather in a totally different light than I am Star Wars movies. And Star Wars movies totally different light. Like I'm not going to go into The Godfather and think, where's all this action and, like all this stuff? Like that's not happening. So like, you have to just be aware of what medium you're watching.
Exactly. Star Wars kids, if you are, let's say, 25 and older, you're probably, or 20 and older. Well, I don't know. Like you could enjoy this at any age. I'm just saying, you just got to know what you're getting into.
Listen, there are some of those Star Wars kids episodes. There's like 2 or 3 where I'm just like, yo, like these are tight. Like
Yeah.
I like them, but like there's some I'm just like, all right, nope, that ain't for me. They're a little just too kiddie. But I don't know. Again, if it's not for me, then I'm not going to watch it, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, they animated the Vader hallway, like the Vader Rogue One stuff. Like I thought that was great. Like,
Yeah, that was really good.
really good.
I'll tell you what's really good. All the book announcements we got last week. We didn't get a chance to talk about these since we were pre-recorded, like we usually go live Friday. This was announced last Thursday. Obviously during Comic-Con, because they normally would have been there. They just put out a StarWars.com news article and dumped us 4 new book releases reveals. So we're going to go through each one of them. I'm going to go through the overall information about each book, and we'll move on. So we got 4 books to talk about. We got Brotherhood, which is a Clone Wars era book. Its release date is May 10th. It's going to be written by Mike Chen. This is from Del Rey, an adult novel. It reads as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker must stem the tide of the raging Clone Wars and forge a new bond as Jedi Knights. Okay, so the Clone Wars have begun. Battle lines are being drawn throughout the galaxy, with every world that joins the Separatists, the peace guarded by the Jedi Order is slipping through their fingers. After an explosion devastates Cato Neimoidia, the jewel of the Trade Federation, the Republic is blamed and the fragile neutrality of the planet is threatened. The Jedi dispatch Obi-Wan Kenobi, one of the Order's most gifted diplomatic minds, to investigate the crime and maintain the balance that has begun to dangerously shift. As Obi-Wan Kenobi investigates with the help of a heroic Neimoidian guard, he finds himself working against the Separatists who hope to draw the planet into their conspiracy, and senses the sinister hand of Asajj Ventress in the mist that cloaks the planet. Amidst the brewing chaos, Anakin Skywalker rises to the rank of Jedi Knight. Despite the mandate that Obi-Wan travels alone and his former master's insistence that he listens this time, Anakin's headstrong determination means nothing can stop him from crashing the party and bringing along a promising but conflicted youngling. Once a Padawan to Obi-Wan, Anakin now finds himself on equal but uncertain footing with the man who raised him. The lingering friction between them increases the danger for everyone around them. The two knights must learn a new way to work together, and they must learn quickly to save Cato Neimoidia and its people from the fires of war. To overcome the threat they face, they must grow beyond master and apprentice. They must stand together as brothers. So initial thoughts on that analysis, or not analysis, I don't know why I'm just forgetting what this would be called for a book, the preview, whatever you want to call synopsis. There we go. What's your thoughts on this one, Ben?
I thought initially before you even read that, when we just saw the title earlier in the week, like I was like, holy smokes, finally Obi-Wan and Anakin related content. Like, I think it's really good. I like that they're going back to the Clone Wars era for like missions and things like that. Again, it harkens more. I think a lot of that stuff is just going to be foreshadowing leading up to the Kenobi show, like for flashbacks and that. So like just the idea that we're getting something from that era, I think is really, really good. And it's exciting. It makes me interested in it just because, everyone loves Obi-Wan and Anakin. There's not a single person I know, like, I'm sure, go to the Twitter comment sections, you can find them, but there's not a single person I generally know that if you ask them, do you like Clone Wars era Obi-Wan and Anakin, yes or no? 99.9% of them will say yes. So I think this is a really good thing. And, it's just cool getting to see one of the many missions that, they're on. And now that Anakin's a knight, like that's a good start. It's like adding more content to that era. Like, sure, we have a lot of content in that era, but it's cool that they're expanding more onto it. And then, of course, throwing in Asajj in there's always a bonus.
Call me crazy. I know I'm on a Star Wars podcast weekly, but I don't know everything, all right? I try to pretend I do sometimes, but that's besides the point. I thought that Anakin was already a knight during Attack of the Clones, because it says in here that he's getting, like, knighted during this book. Well,
I don't.
No, he's a Padawan.
Okay. No, he's a Padawan.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a Padawan.
Yeah, he's got the braid. I'm trying to think of what he looks like. He's got the braid, I guess. Yeah, that would make sense.
He got the braid. Because remember, like, your girl, Padme, makes a slight at him when they're at the temple, when they're on the booth. She's like, oh, he's not a Jedi. He's a Padawan learner. And he, like, gives her a look like, what
That's
the hell?
Right.
Like, why would you throw shade at me like that,
Yep.
Okay, so this is yeah.
I was gonna say, even in non-canon, I mean, like they did that in like the Tartakovsky Clone Wars. Like Anakin got knighted after Attack of the Clones.
I was about to say, you see that in Clone Wars, in
Tartakovsky.
Yep. So I think yeah. So he was definitely still a Padawan in Attack of the Clones, but apparently this book is definitely shortly after it.
So this is going to be almost maybe kind of from a certain point of view, almost recanonizing points of the Clone Wars, not mini micro series maybe, because Asajj Ventress is in the story.
Yeah, Ventress is in the story, and I swear, I mean, I could be retconning that series now, but I feel like weren't they on Cato Neimoidia at one point in that series? Like.
No,
I don't think we've ever seen Cato. We've seen Cato Neimoidia briefly in the movies once.
Yeah, because remember in Attack or in Revenge of the Sith, they're like, "Oh, that business on Kanan and Moidia," and it's always the going joke with Star Wars fans. Like every time they release new Clone Wars content, they're like, "Oh, is Kanan and Moidia going to be there?" And people finally got their wish with this book.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it's
The
gonna.
only time we've seen Kato and Morty, I think, was it like I said, whenever Plo Koon gets killed,
Yep, that's it.
and then do we see it also in The Force Unleashed 2?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's literally the two appearances that I can think of off the top of my head. So,
Mhm.
but like you said, Ben, this is a great reveal because yeah, obviously they're releasing this content now. We're gonna go over. There's another Obi-Wan story we'll talk about. Obviously, Obi-Wan Kenobi show coming out. Of course, they'd put stuff that's gonna tie in to kind of draw up the hype and all that. But I mean,
Yeah.
as much as I like this, it's funny because every time I open up a book, a Del Rey Star Wars novel, they have like the timeline, the different movies and all, and they have the different books that take place in between each movie. There's always this very conspicuous gap that never has a book in it, and it's always between Attack of the Clones and The Phantom Menace. Like there's like a 9 or 10 year gap, and I'm like, I was hoping this would be that book, and I'm looking at it, I was like, oh, another Clone Wars book, which is fantastic. Like I can't wait for Clone Wars content, but I'm also like Del Rey, like when are we gonna finally get that book in between that era? Because that's literally the only gap we have to fill at this point. But still, it's like it's really neat that we're getting another Clone Wars stories because if you guys remember way back in earlier years of Lucasfilm and Disney, we had I think 2015 we had the Dark Disciple book, which was fantastic with Asajj Ventress and
Yep.
Quinlan Voss. Did you guys ever read that one?
Yep. That
I
was
think I
that
had
was
that
a
on
really
audio.
good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That was a really good one. Just I like that they had Quinlan Voss back in that, Azaj, of course. Um, and I think her character, honestly, her character is one of the most underrated Star Wars characters in my opinion, because we're like nowadays, there's so much chatter around like strong female leads and that sort of stuff, which is great. But I think if you would do something, get Azaj out there more in the forefront, I guess you would say, it could potentially get people hyped actually, because look at how hyped people got when they saw the Rey flashback whatever thing in Rise of Skywalker, in the trailer where she has the double red lightsaber flip. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what if we ever get something with Azaj live action, like one way or another, like in flashback form or something? Like, I think her character would be something people will get drawn to because she's a strong female like Sith user. Like, I think her character would be a really cool one if they would ever do it.
Yeah, yeah. We have Joel Davis in a chat chiming in. He's saying nope. Anakin was a Padawan during Attack of the Clones and Legends. Anakin got knighted near the end of the Clone Wars. It seems in canon, Anakin got knighted near the start of the Clone Wars. He's also saying in Legends, the business of Kanan and Moidia appeared in a book called Labyrinth of Evil, which was a sequel to Revenge of the
Oh,
Sith.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
yeah,
because
that,
because the
that
Labyrinth,
that's
that's
what I
where
was
that's when
thinking.
they're hunting. Yeah, they're hunting Palpatine in that book.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. 'Cause remember that's the trilogy, Chris. That's the one we told you about. And what was the chatter's name who mentioned this?
Joel
Uh,
Davis.
yeah. So like Joel probably knows about this. So it's Labyrinth of Evil, it's Revenge of the Sith, then it's Dark Lord, Rise of Darth Vader. Like that's a trilogy within itself.
Yep.
So you want to read that, like those books like are smooth and it talks about a lot of that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty much Anakin's like turn right there. Those three books.
Mm-hmm. Next book we have is a middle grade novel from Disney Lucasfilm Press. This one is a compilation of Jedi and Sith stories called, well, Stories of Jedi and Sith. Now, this is edited by Jennifer Heddle, and it's going to be out on June 7th. The battle between good and evil never ends. The brave Jedi, the devious Sith. These iconic heroes and villains embody the struggle between light and dark, and that is at the very heart of Star Wars. In this exciting middle grade anthology, 10 acclaimed authors imagine all new tales for some of the saga's most popular characters, from Luke Skywalker to Darth Vader, from Obi-Wan Kenobi to Asajj Ventress and beyond, complete with beautiful spot illustrations, epic standoffs, cutting plots, courageous action, and ruthless anger are all here to showcase the enduring power of one of the greatest movie sagas of all time. Included are stories by the following authors. We have Roseanne A. Brown, Sarwan Chada, Delilah S. Dawson, Tessa Grattan. We have Michael Coggs, Sam Maggs, Michael Mrechi, Alex Segura, Bear Strains, Karen Strong, with illustrations by Jake Bartok. And well, the thing is, they have the actual characters that these guys and girls are writing somewhere. I've seen it before. But I'm excited that now, having actually read the synopsis, I do say these are all new tales, because sometimes with these books I feel like they are just like retellings of stories we've already heard, like, from Clone Wars and stuff like that. So hey, I'm always interested to hear new stories about Luke Skywalker and Vader and all those. But yeah, we have a couple memorable writers that we've seen before, but we also have a lot of new faces and names that are on this list. So I'm excited to always kind of hear another interpretation of a new Star Wars writer. So what do you guys have to say about this one?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it sounds really interesting. The big name, I feel like Delilah Dawson sticks out to me as a name for writing in there, and then Alex Segura. That name sounds familiar. I'm not sure what he's written.
He wrote the Poe Dameron novel Freefall, which I
oh,
really
okay,
enjoyed.
okay. That's where I was gonna say I know I've seen that name, but those are like the two biggest names that stick out to me, and just the idea of like adding it almost gives me a certain point of view vibe, like the different tales and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be cool, really cool little stories, and it can add to the characters a little bit more. And hey, as I said, Asajj Ventress, there we go, more of her.
Yeah, so we have a minor correction. Joel Davis did say that the Labyrinth of Evil is actually a prequel. I think I said it was a sequel. So just wanted to correct that for everybody out there that's like thinking of the timelines like I would probably be thinking myself right now. What about you, Milton? Anything to say about this one?
If it's good, I'll read it. Like, I'm gonna be simple about it. Like, if it's good, I'll read it. If it's trash, I'm gonna tell you it's trash. Nah, for real though. Like, it sounds interesting, and like I said, if it's stories that we've already known, they're gonna retell them, sorta. I mean, as long as it's just like listening to the audio dramas that we talked about before.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a different take on it. So
yeah.
And it maybe they add a little more non-canon stuff that's or stuff from the movie or the script that couldn't be added in the film. Like,
Yeah.
I'm cool with this. Like, if they give us more in depth, I mean, I know we mentioned some of this earlier about does it enhance a story or a book or whatever. Like, again, if it's good and if it's interesting, I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah. And my main critique was a couple years ago we had Clone Wars, or maybe just a year ago, Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark, and that came out and it was literally all adaptations of Clone Wars episodes I've already watched a few times. So I was sitting there reading the book like, yeah, kind of seen this. And there was literally one story that was brand new, but it wasn't enough to like win me over for like the book having basically me just reading everything I've already watched. So I'm happy that they came out in front and literally said these are all new stories this time, guys. Don't worry. So happy about that. All right, our third book. This is a young adult novel. This is from Kirsten White, and it's called simply Padawan. So, and this is coming out on July 26th. That's like a day before my birthday. So there we go. Obi-Wan Kenobi struggles with his place in the Force as a young Padawan in this coming-of-age adventure. Obi-Wan Kenobi really wants to be a good Padawan, the best Padawan even, but that's feeling more and more impossible with his new master Qui-Gon Jinn. All of Obi-Wan's friends are off training to be real Jedi, getting mission experience while he's still on Coruscant practicing his forms and sitting in silent contemplation. Ever since Qui-Gon's former master Dooku left the Order, it feels like Qui-Gon Jinn has been too busy trying to connect with the Force or arguing with the Jedi Council to properly train his Padawan. When Obi-Wan finally convinces Qui-Gon to take him on a mission to a remote planet once explored by an ancient Jedi, his master doesn't show up the morning they are to leave. So Obi-Wan impulsively takes off by himself. Upon arriving on the mysterious lush planet, he encounters a group of teenagers with no adult supervision, and who all seem to have some connection to the Force. Free from the constraints of the Order, Obi-Wan joins them in their daring adventures, but the Padawan side of him keeps questioning the teens' strange relationships to the Force, and to the verdant planet around them, and what all of it actually means to his future. Obi-Wan will test the limits of his relationship to the Jedi and to the Force in this exciting yet soulful exploration of one of Star Wars' most enduring heroes. So, there's a lot to dig in with this one. I first want to start off by saying I love the book Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray. It came out around the time of Celebration, so like back in April of 2019. Really love that book. The whole relationship between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan was done so well. Like, you know, Obi-Wan being like such a by the book Jedi, and Qui-Gon, as we know, being that maverick guy that's like that forward thinker for the Jedi Council and everything. So actually understanding that relationship and seeing how we're seeing obviously an Obi-Wan that's much younger in this situation, especially the cool tidbit that they mentioned about Dooku leaving the Order. You know, we have Dooku Jedi Lost, where he leaves the Order in that Kevin Scott audio drama. So seeing how these are going to connect, seeing how Obi-Wan is basically going to be a coming of age adventure. I love these types of stories. Are really, you know, synchronous with Star Wars, obviously, with Luke Skywalker coming of age and Anakin Skywalker coming of age. So throwing it over to Milton, what do you think about this one?
I love the concept of this book, mainly because we talked about this before. What was that other book called, Ben? The one that we talked about?
The Jedi Apprentice series, the 20 series.
That's the one, yeah. So, like, because I love those books, and this reminded me of that. The moment I read that, I was like, this is pretty much Jedi Apprentice. Like, and I forget who wrote that book, but it's like, but this, because that cover is so iconic. This is pretty much that book. So, if they want to tell that story, I'm cool with it. Like, and if hopefully they put on audio, because I'll definitely read it and listen to it. So, I love that story. It's nice to see that. It's nice to see that relationship between Anakin or Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, but also get more of a backstory of like how Qui-Gon's feeling, because obviously he's feeling a certain way about how the Jedi's handling things with his own apprentice. So, yeah.
What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, Milton was thinking the exact same thing I was. Like, that is pretty much, you were pretty much describing the Jedi Apprentice.
That's what I'm saying. That book's fire.
Yeah, like you were pretty much. I think the first book was called The Rising Force, maybe.
Yes, The Rising Force.
But yeah, you were pretty much describing that first book, Chris, like almost to a T.
Oh my god!
Because you know, Obi-Wan's like kind of irrational and like rushes off. Like, you know, you have different yeah, that's they had to have taken some type of like inspiration from that book.
That book is that good. Like, yeah, honestly, that book is that good.
Yeah, because like literally, like it's not even like me and Milton aren't even exaggerating. Like the way you described it sounds exactly like the first book of that series, like to a T. But I, you know, in terms of just like talking about this new thing specifically, it's really good. It's gonna hopefully it leads into more stories like along this line in the similar vein of the Jedi Apprentice series, just because that's an excellent series. I just you know, with a book like this, my only concern when it comes out to any of these type of projects is I don't want it to flash forward too far into the future, like butting up against Phantom Menace, because then you won't be able to make a 20-book series. Like Jedi Apprentice series, you don't even touch Phantom Menace until the final book, like the final few pages. They're flying to the Trade Federation ship. That's how long it takes to get to the Phantom Menace. So you literally get 20 books of Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon related stuff. So hopefully this book could maybe potentially develop into a series, because then, you know what I'm saying though. I don't want this book to flash forward like to that moment, because then boom, it slams the door on all those potential things. So like hopefully this just stays, you know, as an early start to more books. But yeah, I mean, you pretty much described the first book of a book from about 20 years ago.
Very interesting. Really, I can't wait. I can't wait to read these Obi-Wan books. They're gonna flesh a lot more about this character that we already know so much about, but you always can learn more. The final book, and save the best one for last, in my opinion, because I mean, I haven't read anything obviously, but the synopsis for this one is the most intriguing, and what our discussion was based upon, really, that and Secrets of the Sith. So we have Shadow of the Sith. This is written by Adam Christopher. Fun fact, he was originally going to write a Mandalorian story, which would have been out around this time of year, but I don't know if it was related to the Gina Carano thing or what, but he's like, all of a sudden, I'm not doing that book anymore, and this is what he's doing now, apparently. So we got Shadow of the Sith, that is coming out on June 28th. This is an adult novel by Del Rey. So we have Luke Skywalker and Lando Calrissian return in this essential keyword essential novel set between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, the Empire is dead. Nearly 2 decades on from the Battle of Endor, the tattered remnants of Palpatine's forces have fled to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. But for the heroes of the New Republic, danger and loss are ever present, companions even in the newly forged era of peace. Jedi Master Luke Skywalker is haunted by visions of the dark side, foretelling an ominous secret growing somewhere in the depths of space on a dread world called Exegol. The disturbance in the Force is undeniable, and Luke's worst fears are confirmed when his old friend Lando Calrissian comes to him with reports of a new Sith menace. After his daughter was stolen from the arms, Lando searched the stars for any trace of his lost child, but every new rumor only leads to dead ends and fading heroes until he crossed paths with Ochia Bestoon. A Sith assassin is tasked with kidnapping a young girl. Ochi's true motives remain shrouded to Luke and Lando. Ever on a junkyard moon, a mysterious envoy of the Sith Eternal has bequeathed a sacred blade to the assassin, promising that it will give him answers to the questions that have haunted him since the Empire fell. In exchange, he must complete a final mission, return to Exegol with the key to the Sith's glorious rebirth, the granddaughter of Darth Sidious himself, Rey. As Ochi hunts Rey and her parents to the edge of the galaxy, Luke and Lando race to the mystery of the Sith's lingering shadow and a young family running for their lives. Sorry about that. My contacts are like drying out. So like I literally was seeing cloudiness as I'm reading this synopsis. I do know how to read. My eyes are having it right now. So yes, that seems really essential as they put it in the description. And this is going to kind of veer into that territory, and we'll bring that discussion back up once again, is like, all right, this book seems like it's answering about 3 or 4 different questions point blank just from this synopsis here alone. I'm going to throw it to Milton, man. What are your first thoughts on this really interesting book involving Luke, Lando, and Rey, apparently?
I mean, we all know the answer to this. Like, we all know the answer. They're trying to fill in the gaps for the Rise of Skywalker. I mean, that's all it is. Like, I mean, like when I read the synopsis, I mean, look, is it an interesting new story? Yes, and I'm sure people will read it because it's Star Wars and it's Luke. We love Luke, we love Lando, and I mean, and they made it very clear in the movie, like he and Luke were looking for Ochi and Wayfinder, all that type of stuff. But even everything that was said in that synopsis is pretty much answering questions about things that was missed in the film that we didn't get to see or why things occurred. So this is where this book's going to tell us that. And this is going to come back to one of my issues I'm going to have, is that why didn't we get a lot of this in the movie? This should have been a 3.5-hour movie, And like I said, if the book's great, I'll listen to it. And I'm sure, Chris, you'll get it early and review it. And most likely I'll go off of your review on this. And it's like, again, like it sounds interesting. It sounds great. But this is my problem with Star Wars sometimes. It's like you now want to bring it to the fold now. It's like, where was this at 2 years ago? We needed this 2 years ago. If they would have even gave this to us like a month after the movie came out, I'd be like, okay, cool. Like I can now get into it right away.
So I'm putting the pieces together like that meme of that guy in the white dress shirt with all the diagrams and strings behind him, like doing the math in his head, because I'm sitting here as like the canon junkie, like the timeline of in between Force Awakens and the Rise of Skywalker, or Force Awakens Return of the Jedi, sorry. I'm like, okay, so we know the Bloodline novel with Leia forming the Resistance takes place 5 years before the Force Awakens. So they're saying this takes 20 years after Endor, which would make this 5 years before Bloodline. So
it's great. Like it just and this is something that even and I don't know, Ben, you probably heard this. I know, like honestly, we all listen to John Campia's shows in the past. Yep. And he brought this up one time. He said, when is canon something about will Lucasfilm actually like keep it connected appropriately? They'll miss stuff. They'll it's just like this is what I'm talking about, man. Like this is the problem I have with Star Wars sometimes. Like the new Star Wars.
Yeah. Basically what he always says about Star Wars or DC or Marvel is canon until they decide to basically make something else more important in canon, whether it be on screen or not. Like, and this feels like a situation where they, it's basically like, hey, let's hop onto Twitter and see what people are complaining about Rise of Skywalker. let's just do a checklist of stuff, because all of this stuff would have been, and to me, forget the 3.5-hour movie, just cut it into 2 movies and be done with it. Have a 9 and 10. You know what? Who cares? Don't make it a trilogy. Make it a whatever 4 movies is called. I don't know, but do that, because when you do things like this, it literally just looks like you're looking at the complaints on Twitter.
That's
which,
what I'm saying.
Everybody knows, like, Twitter's the only source of information in the world. So, you must go off of that. And I just feel like that's what they're doing right now. When it comes to some of these projects, it's like, let's just answer things that, should have been answered on screen. And now we have complaints about them. To me, it just shows lack of planning, because it's the whole thing of, so you really didn't plan for this at all in the movie, and you're just basically you're not retconning it because it's adding, it's adding. You know what I'm saying by like retconning? Like, if you're adding it back.
This book they're writing could have been in the novelization. Let's be real. This whole book could have been a chapter in a novelization.
It could have been the whatever you call the beginning of the book, a prologue, I guess.
Prologue, yeah.
Yeah, it could have been like the prologue leading up to the Rise of Skywalker, like, novelization. Like, you could have done so much with this, or potentially even in the Rise of Skywalker, just have more flashbacks to this type of stuff. Yeah. And that's the big thing. Anytime I see these type of projects with, like, that are connected to the movies, it just makes me think, is this like a good example of adding to the movie where it's not taking away, or where it's not dealing with anything negative, was Catalyst. They need to use Catalyst as an example of what they should do when it comes to book writing in their movies, because Catalyst was perfect because it added to all of those characters. It didn't, and it perfectly led up to Rogue One, and you don't need to read it to enjoy Rogue One. There's plenty of people I know that have seen Rogue One that have no idea Catalyst exists. And that book was amazing, and it adds to that movie so much more. Like, this, on the other hand, I feel like is just a way to say, hey guys, we're addressing your complaints. It's almost like the whole, like, the issues we saw that popped up in Rise of Skywalker. Like, there were so many complaints about The Last Jedi, and rightfully so, in my opinion, but there were so many complaints. So, then they basically course correct hardcore. And it's always that meme, like, in case of fan outrage, break glass for Palpatine. And that's basically, it's all over the place. Like, oh, let's do this. Like, instead of having a solidified plan.
Yeah. Well, I think what they're trying to do, right, is now we know that Luke Skywalker is involved in the Mandalorian story, right? And here we go doing the math again. Mandalorian takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So if this is taking place like 20 years after Return of the Jedi, they have like 15 years to play around with Luke Skywalker. So apparently Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni said, look, our Luke Skywalker and our story is going to be doing this, this, and this, and this up until this point. And then the story group's probably like, okay, you guys can finally tell that story, because now Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have like their story with Luke Skywalker set up with what he's doing at this state of time. So now that tells me, like, okay, the reins are free. Now we can see more of Luke Skywalker finally. Like, if we're looking to take all the other nonsense out of the way about all this other stuff with the Rise of Skywalker filling gaps, I'm just freaking happy that we finally have a freaking Luke Skywalker novel. Like, that's not like a Legends of Luke Skywalker, like Myths and Fables. Like, this is like a legitimate Luke Skywalker canon novel taking place after Return of the Jedi. It's taken us, let's see, 2015, 14. It's been like, it'll be like 7 years by the time this book comes out, and we finally have like some substantial Luke Skywalker storytelling to sink our teeth into. So I'm excited, and the fact that they say like Grand Master or whatever Luke Skywalker, I believe they used Grand Master, or Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. That doesn't get old looking at that title. Like, yes, he is a master, not a knight.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's just, to me, it's like the whole thing of, it is really cool they're doing the, like you said, it's cool they're actually making stories about Luke, but also in your same positive statement, Chris, it just brings up the whole negative aspect of it. It's taken 7 years to make a Luke Skywalker book. Like, what are you doing? Like, this should have been, they should, I mean, not this book specifically, but they should have made a Luke book leading into The Force Awakens. Like, it's like, what are you doing? Like,
Well,
Luke is a
no,
big.
they wanted to hide him. See, that's
Oh
where
yeah,
Star Wars
that's
is so
That's that
secretive.
stupid. Oh my god, I'm
yeah,
trying.
mystery
That
box.
makes we know Luke was gonna be in the trilogy. Like like don't treat us like we're little like we're babies.
Mark
Like come
Hamill's
on, man.
cast. Yeah, Mark Hamill.
Like Mark Hamill was cast. We knew he was at the table reading.
Well,
Like
well,
we saw the picture. You know what I'm saying? Like
what they do is like, if it's any like, and John Capri, I guess, kind of said this already. Like, any kind of live action thing is going to be the priority. So, like, for instance, like, all right, sequel trilogy's done. Like, okay, we can see what Luke is doing at this certain time. All right, like freaking Mandalorian stuff, all his live action stuff is probably already written. So now it's like, okay, if you guys want to write comic books and novels, like, you won't trip on any of us now because we already have our things done. So it leads me to believe like they already have those rough ideas and they're like, okay,
right.
go ahead and play in your playground with the writer or whatever. I'm surprised
Here's my
because I thought this could be like maybe an animated series eventually. Like I thought this would be a much grander scope of like Luke going to find this thing in like even a video game or so. I'm frankly very surprised that this story is coming out now in the form of a novel.
Look, we kind. Oh, I was just going to say real quick.
Go ahead.
We kind of had talked about it before. I think all three of us had talked about it when you were on here. What if the Lando series was Billy D. Williams narrating, flashback, boom, Donald, and then you have a series with Donald Glover and young Luke. Boom, there you go. Like,
well, I guess that's not happening now.
no, that's out the window.
Chris, you make a good point about how the live action movies are the priority. I get that. However, in 2012, was it 2012 when the sale went down for Star Wars?
Yeah.
Or 2013, whatever. Like, everybody was clamoring at that point of like, okay, we're getting 3 new movies. We know the original 3 are coming back. Great. Everything that was coming out at that point, prior around The Force Awakens, everybody was buying. Force Friday, huge.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone remember that. So my only issue is they could have put out a couple books to set up what Luke was doing, Han, Leia, whomever. And they're smart. They could have written them well enough to say, hey, let's not give them what's going to be in the movie. Let's just see what they've been doing up for like that 20-year period or whatever. Like if they want to not give us a 10-year gap, fine. But those 20 years, I felt they should have done that. And this book could have been one of those where they could say, okay, blah, blah, blah. Because we wouldn't have understood what was actually going on quite yet. We would just know that, hey, Luke was doing some shit. We just don't know exactly where he's taking it yet. You know, you could have even enhanced The Force Awakens even more and hell, it could even help The Last Jedi. I don't know. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. And we'll just go with that.
Yeah. So let's get into some of the stuff now as the title of this podcast this week is explaining. Just getting into like the different things that have enhanced the sequel trilogy so far. And I'll say I think so far Secrets of the Sith book I was talking about earlier, just talking about the different force powers, about, how Palpatine was able to do a transference like Sith spell thing between the minds of Ben Solo and Rey, and kind of, finagling inside of Ben's mind to give him like this mind trick through eons of space and whatnot. So that was a good one. Obviously, Shadows of the Sith, when this comes out, it's going to be huge. The novelization. So correct me if I'm wrong, Milton. You've read the T-Rose novelization or listened to it or something?
Yeah, I've listened to it. Yeah.
All right. So what are your thoughts on that?
I've listened to it. I'm sorry. Say that again.
What are your thoughts on that? Did you feel like it really helped enhance?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it did. I mean, especially with like some of the like the Palpatine, a lot of the Palpatine stuff. When he talks about like, his spirit and everything and what was going on with him and, just like the whole setup, I enjoy that part. Everything about the the Rise of Skywalker that I really love was Palpatine, without question. And I felt that was whenever his name was brought up, my alert went up because I was like, okay, I want to know where he's been. How did he get here? Clearly you already know what the current characters are doing at the time of the story, but I felt that book helped explain Palpatine more. And that's why I go back to and saying, hey, it could have been, you could have put that information in the movie without question. But again, I'll take it in the book. I don't, do I have the, I don't know if I have the art of the, oh my God, the art of the Rise of Skywalker. I think I have that book. That helps it a lot too, because you get to see, you know, more concept art of what things could have been, why they went different directions. I don't have the encyclopedia, but like I said, things like that, from what I've seen, has helped me. And I wouldn't say like the film, but like get through it and like somewhat enjoy it whenever I want to enjoy it. You know, like that's probably the second favorite out of the trilogy in my opinion. So Force Awakens, Rise of Skywalker, then Last Jedi.
And so another one I'll throw at you guys is Greg Pak's current run of the Darth Vader series. Right before War of the Bounty Hunters, Vader actually found Exegol. He found Exegol. Vader was actually in the same place that Ben Solo stands, his own grandson. And there he finds out that, you know, this is obviously during Return of the, like that, obviously original trilogy era, and there's already a fleet of Star Destroyers made. There's a reason why Palpatine is there. There's a giant crystal of Kyber that is there. So very in your face, like, oh my gosh, like he's cloning Snoke basically already, like at that point. So just like the Secrets of the Sith, that one was like very in your face about, oh yes, this stuff was here 30 years prior to The Force Awakens. Don't worry, guys. Like it just wasn't done overnight like we thought it was when we watched the movie.
See, okay, so we've said a lot of positive things about connecting. I think I definitely, when I did first hear that, when I first heard your review on it, Chris, you know, you do great reviews and everything. I just don't think that is good to introduce into canon whatsoever, just because why didn't Vader just, you know, in his dying breath, why didn't he tell Luke, go to Exegol, there's like 1,000 Star Destroyers there or whatever? Like, I don't know. I don't like introducing elements like that, because I think, you know, as you said, it's almost answering the question of like the meta question from the audience, like, how did all these Star Destroyers get there? Oh, guys, like, you know, we answered it in this book or a comic. Like, I don't know. I don't like those type of aspects. I do like the idea of it, of like, I do like the idea of explaining it, but I just don't like the idea of when they explain it. So, you know, don't have, I don't know, somehow or another, just don't have Vader be the one discovering it, because like maybe have, I don't know, have Tarkin go there. Tarkin, that would actually been a perfect character to do that. Like, because then
or even Thrawn. Or even Thrawn.
Yeah, Thrawn would be, actually, that would have been imagine that as a comic, Thrawn going to Exegol or something and meeting with Palpatine. Like, that type of thing would be really cool. I just don't like having a character like Vader interact with a situation like that, because, you know, he was good at the end of Return of the Jedi. Why did he not mention that to Luke at all?
Yeah,
like, or even like in his like Force version, like Yoda talks and Obi-Wan sits down and has a full-blown conscious conversation with Luke in Return of the Jedi. Like, he literally sits on a log. Like, why couldn't Anakin be like, hey, you know, after I died, just so you know, when I was evil, hey, all these Star Destroyers are on Exegol. Like, like, I don't like introducing those type of elements, but if it was a different character, as I said, like Tarkin or Thrawn or someone like that, I would be 100% fine with it.
Yeah, to be fair, like, there's still a chance for him to do some kind of explanation that this series is not quite over yet. That run is still going on. So yeah, now that you brought that up, I'm again, because that's my initial thought when I first read it was like, yeah, how is this going to fit in with the current canon of like Vader literally knowing about this and not saying a word? So, hey, I'm waiting on bated breath here when this thing ends, whenever this run will end, whether it's issue number 20 or issue number 40, who knows? I just expect and I hope that he comes up with a decent enough solution so it puts us back off our guard. But throwing out to you, Ben, like some of the stuff you've heard already, if you want to piggyback on, or maybe there's some other things out there. What do you feel about some of this media that's helping enhance the Rise of Skywalker after the fact?
Yeah, I mean, and I would say in terms of, well, Rise of Skywalker, I think, you know, it's good to like help enhance that movie, but the sequels as a whole, like, I feel like, I think the best enhancing book or piece of media out there is the Bloodline book. I think that was really good. It kind of explained the state of the galaxy. It explained why people weren't fans of Leia because they literally like pretty much announced she's the daughter of Vader. Like so, you have those type of things. You have the implications of the First Order being out there from like that whole napkin bombing incident that happened in that book. Like those type of things that are like foreshadowing and building up. I think that's a really good example of how to do it properly. That's almost, I think that's like the closest thing to Catalyst we've gotten in terms
that's
of
one of the best novels yet. Yep.
In terms of the sequels. I thought that was really good. I thought, which I think that was the best example. But in terms of like the Rise of Skywalker stuff, like as we mentioned in our like opening part of this episode, like I think it's good explaining more of the like little bits and pieces. I really do enjoy like all of the different storylines we've gotten so far. Help me with whatever the comic when Vader and Orchie like have their little showdown.
Yep. That's
like,
the Darth Vader comic. Yep.
Yep. Like I do like that a lot because to me, that's a non-consequential thing, because Orchie wasn't in Rise of Skywalker, but it connects. It's cool. It shows like Vader still being cunning, even though he's not using the Force really. Like it shows that, but it also is a cool connection because then like when you watch Rise of Skywalker, it's like, oh, that's the character that was interacting and fighting with Vader, but this is still not really having a overall consequence on the film. It's just adding to that value moment of like them going to the desert and finding the ship and all of that sort of stuff. Like those type of aspects I think are excellent because they add, but they don't take away. And if you haven't consumed those pieces of media, it doesn't take away from your, overall viewing experience.
Yeah. So I think in conclusion is, there's certain things that worked and simply certain things that were a little bit overhanded when it came to giving us solutions, but not heavy solutions. So I think, this is 2 years after Rise of Skywalker. I'm sure we're 5 years from now, we'll probably still get an announcement of, oh, this will come out and it's going to deal with this character or this situation that we might have heard or seen in Rise of Skywalker. But, I mean, nonetheless, I'm relieved that some of these things are finally going to be answered. Because every time I watch The Rise of Skywalker, I'm going to have a better idea of maybe what's happening with Palpatine and overall, as a Star Wars fan, I just want the story to make more sense. So whatever way they can do that, as long as it's respectful and not overdone too much, then I'll be there for it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like that's the important thing, just being like respectful of the story that's already been told, but also like adding to that story to make the story's value better. Like that's how even Last Jedi, like that's by far my least favorite Star Wars property. But if they would release say more things around that, which I don't think they're going to just because of the whole stigma of it, but if they would, that would potentially make some of the negative parts of that movie better. That would be better for me as a potential, as a viewer or a reader of that book, because then, that could potentially make me understand those moments in The Last Jedi better than how they were portrayed on screen. So like, there are instances where books can help a movie like that, but they can also hurt a movie. So it's all about balance and just, being aware of what you're creating.
Heck yeah. So do you guys have any final thoughts for tonight before we close the show?
Not really. And it's only thing I can say is, obviously Star Wars is just doing what they need to do, I guess, just to, strengthen their properties and strengthen their brand. So I can't fault them for doing what they need to do to strengthen their movies and promote themselves as a company and just be more interactive with their fans. So, yeah.
Yeah, because when it comes down to it, at least we know they're listening to the community, right? Like these are a lot of things that a lot of people had questions about. And for Lucasfilm to kind of go out and finally acknowledge, because there was a time when it seemed like Lucasfilm might have not been listening as much as they should. So it's great to see them turning over a new leaf for the most part, and at least like saying, "Hey guys, we hear ya. Like here's some content. Check it out, and hopefully you like it." I mean, I don't know, but I'm ready for to kind of give them a little bit after what's been going on over the last couple of years.
Oh, 100%. Now, to take a big step back from all of the comments that I made so far about, books, the whole thing of like, you shouldn't have books for movies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. On a general audience perspective, we're looking at this from like a hardcore Star Wars slash movie fan, but a general audience perspective, like my younger cousin who he loves Star Wars and everything, but he's not like as, I guess, I don't know, over the top as I am about it. So the thing is, he loves these type of things. Like he probably is gonna love that Luke and Lando thing. Like just because, he looks at it more from a basic perspective of like, oh, cool, they're connecting more things. Like that's cool. Like, and I think that's a really good viewpoint to keep in mind as well. Like a lot of the general audience members are probably going to really enjoy this actually, for what it is. So, that's a perspective us as like Star Wars fans and people like chatting on social media with other Star Wars fans. Like we are. If we're talking Star Wars on social media, we're definitely in a niche of like, sure, the fandom is huge, but the general audience fandom is much bigger, much, much bigger. So,
Oh yeah.
like these type of projects for general audience makes perfect sense, 100%. Like, I have no issue with it whatsoever in terms of general audiences, just because they love that. Like, I'm not saying they as in like looking down on them or anything, but they as in general audience members who look at Star Wars from not as such a like a microscope type perspective, because we, like you said, Chris, earlier, when the Boba trailer comes out, we're going to be watching like every second of it, and a general audience member may just watch it twice and they'll wait till the show comes out, or maybe just watch it once. So like from a general audience perspective, these books are perfect because it'll just add to like their entertainment and their like the fandom more. And I think that's a good thing to go about. So yeah, I think overall though these are pretty good, for what they are, as long as you're being like respectful of the story and adding to it, not taking away or not over explaining things. I think you're 100% fine to do these type of projects.
Excellent, excellent. I that was a great conversation we had tonight because I feel like that's something that has been bubbling up, especially with the announcement of this new book, Shadow of the Sith. But it's nice to just talk it out, be like, hey, here's the pros, here's the cons. Maybe they shouldn't do it this way, maybe more like this way. It's just nice to talk these sorts of discussions out because to a lot of us fans it matters, and we really obviously care about this franchise, and we want to see it go in the right direction. So
Yeah, well, one more quick thing. So a big example of this, like I absolutely cannot stand in a certain point of view where the red droid sacrifices himself basically for R2 to like end up with Uncle Owen and all that stuff. Like I thought that story was like one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I read that, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like they went there, like a droid sacrificing themselves. Like what is this? And then on the flip side, my cousin who read that book, I am not exaggerating. He texted me like in bold letters, "Dude, that red droid in A New Hope sacrificed himself to let R2 go to Uncle Owen and blah blah blah. This is so cool. Oh my gosh, can't believe it. Blah blah blah." And see, like that's the type of reaction maybe from general audiences that they're like, man, this type of stuff is cool. And like me as like a microscoping Star Wars fan, I'm like, man, this doesn't sound great. Blah blah blah. So like, that's the value of these type of projects, is they can really get people excited for even answering some of the smallest questions.
yeah. So to each their own, as the saying
Yep.
goes. And well, with that, guys, that's another episode of the books. Where next episode will be at episode number 30 already. So closing it out for this week. If you guys are listening to this in audio form, just remember you can always check us out at youtube.com/Starrapter every Friday at 9 o'clock. Like my buddy Dark Nerdy Gonzo, Joel Davis. We had Aaron Daly in here, Zach Arnold. We had Jack Brody. You can join those guys just like they did tonight by chatting with us live and having a nice conversation online. And you can always watch us, of course, after the fact. And if you are watching and maybe want to listen to this on a car drive one week, you can always download us on any podcast streaming app, whether it be Apple Music, Google Music, Spotify, etc. So what are you guys going to be up to this week? Where can they find you?
You can find me at Real Ben Maynard on Twitter. I'll just be doing the normal stuff, Madden and talking Star Wars, and then I will probably be tweeting about the show Another Life on Netflix with Katie Sackhoff. Like as we mentioned earlier, I think that's going to be pretty good for season 2. And if you haven't checked it out, check out season 1 on Netflix.
You can find me at Milton Weber 7 on Twitter. Normally I just talk about sports. Just other stuff on Twitter, nothing too crazy. And like I said, if you want to talk to Star Wars with me, great. Again, Milton Weber 7 on Twitter, sports, Star Wars, or whatever. Appreciate you guys listening.
Yeah, and I have a strong suspicion that probably each one of us will be talking about DC coming on Saturday with the fandom event. So
Yes.
there's going to be some hot trailers dropping for us recording Friday. That's going to be tomorrow. So I'm sure Twitter is going to be trending with all sorts of DC characters on Saturday, so we'll be talking about that, I am quite sure. As far as the YouTube channel, just a reminder for everybody, like I was talking about off the top, I have 2 videos relating to New York Comic Con. So if you guys are interested in seeing what that's like, especially during a COVID era, you can go ahead and check out my vlog, and you can check out the cosplay video I put together of just really cool costumes people sported out there at New York Comic Con. So for Ben, for Milton, for myself, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, everybody. Transmission out.